Wareham. For tonight's meeting, Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019. It is 6:30 PM, and we are at the room 320 at the Multi-Service Center, Wareham, Mass. 571. I want to call the meeting to order. I make a roll call. My far right, Mr. Robert Haskell, our clerk, Jim Akibachi. My far left, Jake Morrison. Town planner, Ken Buckland. Myself, the chair, Nazi Al-Khalasi, also present. Town consultant, professional engineer, Charles Rowley. We have some quick business to do. It'll take a couple of minutes. Minutes for the May 8th, 2019.
I've had the opportunity to review and approve and move that we approve as presented.
Okay, I have a motion by Jim to grant. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Bob. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Oppose, abstain. Do we know if Robert's coming? I mean, Walter.
I just texted him. He didn't answer me yet.
We're gonna go to public hearings 16-19, 17-19. We're gonna table them until we have a fifth member. 18-19, Answer Fire District, 4810 Cranberry Highway. Wanna come forward, please?
Packet is for Nancy.
No, the one that's in front of us right now is the map for the renovation of the filling station on Cranberry Highway across from Walnut and Paul's. It's an existing gas station now.
Yes, I know that, yeah.
Yeah, you called on set fire?
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no, I'm good. None of those.
Okay. Our architect's en route. If you want us to table until he gets here, we can do that, or we can go.
Oh, he's not here yet?
The architects. If you have questions specifically about the architecture of the building and the.
Let's table it.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, we go to 19-19, Selco Partnership, 344 Glen Charlie Road.
Look at that three. I think I'll start reading. Zoning Board of Appeals to hold a public hearing on May 22nd, 2019, at 6:30 PM in room 320 of the Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571. To consider petition number 19-19 for a special permit for relief under Article 5, Section 540, and Article 14, Section 1460 of the Wareham zoning bylaws for Selco Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless, care of Gehring and Associates, LLC, P.O. Box 98, West Mystic, Connecticut, 06388, seeking to install a wireless communications facility tower with accessory ground equipment, including a propane-fueled standby power generator located at 344 Glen Charlie Road, Wareham, Assessors Map 128, Lot 1001-A, in the R130 zoning district.
Okay, very well. Name and address for the record, and it's yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Carl Gehring on behalf of Verizon Wireless. And I am joined by Sean Mahoney, representing Verizon Wireless Real Estate Department, Mark Carenti, real estate appraiser, valuation expert, Dr. Don Hayes, certified health physicist, Doug Shadell, acoustical expert, and Keith Valenti, RF expert. I introduced these folks because they are all contributors to the application package, the binder that I see you have in front of you. They're all expert witnesses. I'm going to lead the presentation, try to answer most of your questions. However, if there's something more in depth you want to get into, those experts are available. Before I get into it, I just want to set the tone or sort of clarify that when you mention cell tower, a lot of times people think there's more to it than it really is. It's more complicated than it really is. Now, certainly the technology that allows you to have a device that you can keep in your pocket and connect to the rest of the world, that is indeed complicated. However, we're here tonight for a special permit. We do not need any variances. And the planning and zoning and site plan review and construction aspects of what we're proposing is very simple. It's more simple than a single-family home. And I have a little model here. I don't mean any disrespect. I apologize in advance to anyone. I don't mean any disrespect to anyone's concerns about this, but I wanted to just explain from the planning and zoning perspective, you folks as members of the board review a lot more complicated projects. This is a desk pen that I found. It was hard to find one that's just a simple single one. Usually they have two with a clock, a plaque. I spray painted it gray to represent the gray monopole. This block of granite represents the foundation, which is basically just a big counterweight. So all we're proposing is a pole in the air that's held in place with a counterweight that's invisible. It's buried underground. So all that sticks up is a pole, upon which we hang antennas, put some equipment at the base, turn the switch on, and all of a sudden your phone works better. So this is less complicated than building a single-family home. A single-family home requires more land clearing and more disturbance to the environment in terms of the whole area, the foundation, the garage, the walkways, driveway, yard, and so forth. And a single-family home is much more complicated in terms of plumbing and wiring and a septic system, and water and sewer and trim and appliances and so forth. And in our opinion, a single-family home is more disruptive once constructed than what we are proposing, because once this is built, it's just an inanimate object in the woods that transmits a signal. Nothing goes on there. Occasionally someone will check on it, but other than that, there's no activity, whereas a single-family home, depending on who moves in, could be more disruptive if they have parties, loud music, and dogs barking, and they leave the spotlight above the garage on all night that shines in your window and so forth. So I guess what I'm getting at is that there's a misconception that towers are complicated. They're actually very simple from a real estate perspective. Now, what I want to do is very quickly run through the contents of the application binder that I see you have in front of you, and by doing so, I found that I will answer some of your questions in advance, hopefully. So under the second page of the cover sheet is the table of contents of the 12 tabs. Okay, so under tab 1 are the official Town of Wareham forms. We're asking for a special permit. There are no variances. We're proposing a 130-foot tower by rider without the need for a variance. You could build up to 190 feet. This is allowed by special permit in the zoning district. We're proposing something that's 30% lower than what we could ask for. We're not asking for the maximum. We're asking for 130, not 190. Under tab 2 is my statement in support, where I've gone through every section of the wireless bylaw, line by line, and addressed how we're either compliant or it's not applicable. And then in that same tab 2 section, I get to the general special permit requirements, and then an alternate site analysis where it describes how we arrive at a site and how a site is chosen. Basically, that diagram showing the leasing aspects, the zoning aspects, and the construction aspects. All those folks have to agree on the candidate. And I listed 10 other sites that we looked at that were eliminated for various reasons, either because they couldn't come to terms with the landowner, or they were not constructible, or their RF engineer said they were too low, or for whatever reason. So we arrived at this site. This is our best candidate, in our opinion. Under tab 3 is the letter of authorization from our landowners, allowing us to file for this. Under tab 4 are the field card, tax map, and deed of subject property. Tab 5 are our FCC licenses. I put those in there so on the record it's shown that we are a federal licensee, affording certain protections under federal law. Under tab 6 are the RF plots of the RF engineer. And I have larger versions here. You all have small versions in your packets there. And basically, this first plot, A and B, is just a general overview of here's the subject property. You can see before and after where there's the yellow aspects here, the 2100 megahertz is missing. There's a lot of holes that are filled in by the site. But what's more dramatic, I think, is really the CD plots, which demonstrate that, say you're a Verizon customer, or someone in the audience says, you went out there this afternoon and you were able to make a call from the area. You say, well, what do you need the site for? I was able to make a call. That may be true depending on the time of day, the amount of network traffic, and so forth. There's a phenomenon in our industry called footprint shrinkage, where the more people that get on the line to a certain site, the less power can go around for everyone. So in other words, a finite amount of power given off by these sites. The more people that get on, closer to the site than you are, now you'll start to lose your signals until it's dropped and there are holes. So what's happening now is any coverage that's down there is coming in from this site we call Buzzards Bay down here on Route 25. That's basically what's covering the area now. There's some peripheral coverage coming in from this Wareham site and from this so-called Wareham 4 site, but the primary one is this coming in from Buzzards Bay. That's not really what this was designed for. This is designed to cover the highway and the immediate environments and so forth, but the signal's drifting over there, and yeah, you're getting some signal, but it's unreliable and so forth. And as there's more network traffic, then calls are dropped and holes are opened up. So this attachment D represents what will happen after this site is built, where all of a sudden this will provide the primary coverage to that area. These sites are then relaxed, providing coverage in where they were designed to do. That's the purpose of it, and I think that one shows it the best. So you have small versions of those in your packets here. And also of note, under that same tab, on page 6 of the RF Engineer's report is a list of all the surrounding sites. And it's interesting to note, it shows the antenna height. Now that's the centerline height, not the height of the tower. It's usually the height of the tower is about 5 feet taller, or it could be more if we're down low. So just based on this, the average height of these surrounding towers, assuming that we are the top spot, which we're not, is about 144 feet. We're proposing 130 footers, so we're below average here. We're also, as I said, 30% lower than what we could be asking for under the special permit in that zone district of 190. We're only asking for 136 feet lower. Under tab 7 is the report of Dr. Hayes, certified health physicist. As the board is aware, in discussion of the environmental effects of radio frequency emissions is sort of an off-limit topic for the boards in permitting to the extent that we comply with federal guidelines. So without waiving any of our rights or protections under federal law, we have commissioned Dr. Hayes as an independent health physicist to analyze this potential installation. Will it be compliant with federal guidelines, yes or no? And his answer is yes. I'm quoting now from page 1 of his report. In my expert opinion, this facility would comply with all regulatory guidelines for RF exposure. But I think what's more interesting is he shows on page 7 of his report this chart where you have these limits of exposure. The FCC, the feds have provided these 2 different exposure limits. One is if you're in the business of working with your antennas and so forth, they allow you to have be around a higher exposure level because they figure those folks know what they're doing, they know where to stand and what to do. Whereas members of the public who are unaware that there may even be a site nearby, the limit's much lower. And so with that lower, Dr. Hayes analyzes this on that lower limit for the members of the public. And with the tower fully loaded, if we were to build this at every single wireless carrier that has a license in the market were to come on that thing, it would still be less than 5% of the limit. That is so low, that's a complete non-issue, meaning you could build 20 more of these things on the same lot, which would be a physical impossibility, and still be below the limit. So the RF emissions is a complete non-issue. It's completely compliant, and it's very, very low power. There's more power coming off the phone you have in your pocket than this thing a couple hundred feet away. Under number 8 is the FAA report. Whenever we build a tall structure in the air, we have to confirm that we're not going to be in violation of air traffic and flight patterns and so forth. So that was analyzed and deemed clear, no non-issue. Under number 9 is the report of our acoustical expert. The tower itself doesn't give off any sound, but we are proposing some little cabinets that have cooling in them, and then, like a little fan, and then we have an emergency standby backup power generator, propane fuel, a 500-gallon propane tank. So that in the event there's a complete blackout in the area, that thing can come on and we can stay on air in times of emergency, which is what you want. And then actually the FCC is getting more towards mandating that. Verizon has always done that as a matter of routine for the most part. So Mr. Shadell's report shows that, again, the sound is a non-issue. He went out and measured the ambient sound both in the day and the night and compared that with what we're proposing to add to that, and it's a complete non-issue, so this will not annoy anyone. Going back to my original premise that this is, once built, nothing's going to happen out there that anyone will even notice. Under number 10 is a report of Mr. Correnti, the real estate expert. We asked him to analyze this site with the question, would building this have a deleterious impact on surrounding property values, yes or no? And we commissioned his report without knowing what the answer is. Now, he, again, is an outside independent appraiser with his own code of ethics and rules and so forth, and he said, you know, okay, I'll take that assignment on. You may not like my answer, you still have to pay me. And I said, fine, what's your report? And he said in this particular instance, and I'm not saying this is everywhere in all instances, but in this particular instance, his opinion is that they'll have no measurable impact on property values. And he's outlined and shown comps and data, empirical data, to back that up. Not just to see the pants or gut feel about it, but actual empirical data from a real estate appraiser's perspective that'll have no deleterious impact. And what we found is that not having service can be more of a detriment in this day and age. You know, 20 years ago, that would probably not have been even entered into people's mindset when they're shopping for a home. But now, finding a home in a dead zone or a problematic coverage can be a problem. This is what's going to solve that area in that neighborhood. It's going to be a benefit. We're providing infrastructure, no cost to the town, wireless utility infrastructure. Under number 11 are some photographs. Now, the first thing you'll see in there is I took pictures of some other utility structures in the vicinity. So what we're proposing is basically utility infrastructure. It's just a pole. There are other tall utility infrastructure, pieces of infrastructure in the neighborhood. Right across the street, there's a water tech that's 145 feet tall. We're proposing a 130-foot tower, but our ground elevation is about 5 feet lower than this thing. So in effect, the top of our tower, we've got 20 feet lower than the top of that water tank. That's a piece of infrastructure, tall infrastructure, that's already in the neighborhood, in fact, right across the street. About 3/10 of a mile to the west, down to Glen Charlie, are this power line easement with these tall stanchions. So again, what we're proposing is not something that's out of place or out of character for the area where there are already tall pieces of utility infrastructure in place. And then what we did is we flew a balloon. And you'll see all these photographs. You have smaller versions in there, but we flew a balloon on a calm morning in March 20th. Early in the morning, there's no wind. There's a bright, sunny blue sky day. Flew a balloon at the exact height. The top of the balloon is 130 feet. And then we scanned it, we drove around the neighborhood and tried to see, well, where can we see this thing from? And you'll see that in the beginning of that, under that tab 11, behind the utility infrastructure pieces, I told you there's a map in there that shows you all the different locations. Now, some of them it was just not visible. I mean, basically, these guys went overboard in the sense they went all the way down, way out where I knew that, hey, you're not going to be able to see it from there, but they went and looked anyway. And so there were a lot, if you look through those photos, where you're not going to be able to see it at all. And then what we mounted here are places where, yes, you could see it. And what we found is the gist of it is, if you could see the water tank, if you could see the top 20 feet of that water tank, because as I mentioned, that thing's at 145 feet, but it's got a 5-foot higher ground elevation. We're at 130. 5 feet lower. So if you could see the top 20 feet of that water tank from anywhere, then you probably, or might be able to see the very tippy top of our tower. If you can't see the water tank at all, you're not going to see our tower. If you can see a substantial portion of the water tank, then you can see more of our tower. So we took pictures from various perspectives, and you can see it's a very de minimis fleeting view that, okay, there's this thing in the distance that, you know, okay, there's the water tank, and what's this thing over there? Oh, that's that new tower. It's a very minor, unobtrusive sort of installation. Proposing what's called a monopole, as opposed to a lattice tower or guy tower. There's no lights on it. So those are the visuals, and then everyone has at the end of their application diagram, tab 12, a half size 11 by 17 fold-out set of plans. I have a big version here. So basically, the overview is that we have subject property here. We're outside of this Buttermilk Bay Water Resource District. We're also outside of wetlands on subject property. We made sure, the engineers made sure that they were completely outside the 100-foot buffer, so there's no Conservation Commission procedures implicated in what we're proposing. It's very clean, straightforward, special permit only, which is allowed in the zoning district. And again, no height variance, because we're allowed to go up to 190, but we're only proposing 1/3. And then the details of the site, and also there is a requirement in the bylaw that there's a full height fall zone, they call it 100%. That's represented by the circle, so we meet that without variance, full height. And then there's already a roadway, so there's no new curb cut, no new driveway per se. We may have to, you know, add some material to that and so forth. But then off in the woods, you go down that drive and off to the left in the woods where we intend to put this. Now, there's already, when we did the balloon float, I was concerned, how are you going to get this balloon up if there's all these trees? We're going to have to start clearing trees before we even have a permit. And what I was told, and what I confirmed when I visited the site, there's a lot of dead stuff there. There's kind of an opening anyway. So it works out pretty good that we do this installation with a minimal amount of clearing, because it's already sort of a cleared area, and there's some dead trees which will get out of there and kind of clean it up. So we're able to get the balloon up, and then the site itself is, again, very simple. It's more complicated to build a home than one of these things. It's just basically a squared off compound, 50 by 50. It's got geotech fabric down on it and then gravel on top of that. This pole is, again, held up by this big counterweight underneath. We have not done the geotechnical analysis yet to determine what size foundation, you know, that'll come later, but whatever it is, it'll be buried, you won't see it. The pole's bolted to that, and then at the base, inside this compound, we're going to propose, this is the little Verizon area, and we're leaving room for other future co-locators. So if some other carrier comes along 2 years from now or whatever, this would be available for them, this empty space in here. But here's where our equipment cabinets would be, a generator here, a propane tank, a 500-gallon propane tank, which under 780 CMR in the building code, we have to keep a 10-foot radius around that, you know, no spark plug they call it. So that's all set up for the building code. So it's very simple. And then the elevation drawing again shows the tower with us. We're the only one, we're the ones building this thing. We're going to be up top. But this shows that it would be structurally capable of holding other carriers. So if someone came along and wanted to go on there, okay, fine, it's beefed up and ready for them. So it's a very simple application, very uncomplicated site plan. It's allowed by special permit. We don't need any variances. We respectfully request your approval for the application as presented.
All right, very well. Start with Mr. Haskell. You have a question?
You just said something pertaining to adding to that. Do you have any plans in the future to, we'll say, to add other antennas or other material to that tower?
We don't. This is sort of routine in the industry when someone builds one of these things.
I've seen those before.
Yeah.
And they work pretty well. The only, you just said that things could be added later on, so that's what keyed the question.
Well, they will have to come back for another hearing. Veronica?
So I noted, you said there's a generator in the event that electricity fails.
Yes.
Is that enclosed? Like, what's the sound that's going to come from that? Let's say it happens in the middle of the night for...
Yeah, that's part of Mr. Chadel's sound report, and shows that the generator adds basically adds, depending on where that he was measuring from, it adds nothing to the ambient or 1 decibel, which, I mean, it's a very non-issue. And then when you think about it, in the event of an emergency, an actual power failure, and this thing fires up, well, there are other folks, I'm sure, in the area that have their own. Like, I have a generator where I live, and last time we got a power failure, last fall, I realized the power was out about 2 in the morning, and when I went out back, we have keep ours out back by our deck. When I went out back at 2 in the morning to start mine, I could hear, you know, in the neighborhood, like way over there somewhere, someone had theirs running, way down there, someone had theirs going. As soon as I started mine, I didn't hear any of those. Now mine drowned it out, you know, so, and then again, you cut people slack in times like that, and then as soon as the power comes back on, it shuts down, now you're back to normal. So it's really a non-issue with sound as well.
That's the only thing I have right now.
Jake?
No questions.
Charlie, do you have a comment on that?
Just a couple of questions, basic ones. You mentioned that the site will be covered with geotech material and gravel. Could you be a little bit more specific? What do you mean by geotech material? Is it impervious, or is it the type that will allow the water to go through it?
Impervious.
Impervious to allow the water to go through it?
Yes, absolutely.
What specification are you using for the gravel?
That kind of detail, I don't know, that would be provided in construction drawings for a building permit. It's typically, you know, like 3/4 inch stone or something that just over this fabric, just
How thick?
4 to 6 inches. I don't know for sure on that exactly. I'm sorry.
It's typically a detail that you would put there with respect to what the site's going to look like, but if it's only 4 inches, that won't be anywhere near enough, because as soon as you drive a vehicle on it, it'll slide.
Well, so there's no vehicles being driven in there. So let's see, it's 6 inches. I'm sorry, 6 inches of 3/4 inch crushed stone. And that, but there's no vehicles driving in there. See, that's just the compound area where the vehicles come in here. This is already existing. This is just a fenced off area to keep the equipment secure. So there's just people walking around in there. No vehicles.
What's the contours of the ground like? Where does the water get shed to?
It's very, we're hardly changing there's a log over this side, which the water would drink to, and we're not changing the contours. Per se. It's already very relatively flat. It's perfect.
What are the contours where the tower is with respect to the contours that are just outside the fence?
So it's, the ground is higher here, and it's going down this way. Going down like this, to a bog.
What's the contour difference? I'm trying to find out what the difference in elevation is.
I see it, Charlie. Excuse me, sir. It's 43, 42. The lowest spot, it's 42, and then it goes up to the, what's the north? Goes up to the left to 43. So the lowest spot on the far right corner where the tower is, and it's pretty flat. It's 43, 43 all the way around this one little spot on the far right corner, 42.
Okay,
So it's pretty flat.
all right.
But we could make a condition that we'd rather be like a bluestone 1.5 inches, and you recommend 6 inch.
So long as it's not going to have any traffic on it, the 3/4 should be fine. I don't have any problem with that. I did have one question, though, with respect to the generator. What's the distance to the nearest dwelling?
Nearest what?
Dwelling.
350 feet.
350 feet?
Good job.
I have no other questions.
All right, anyone in the audience want to speak in favor of this project? Anyone against? Yes, sir, want to come forward? Just have a seat, please.
Sure.
name and address for the record.
My name's John Murphy. I live in Walpole, but I own the property directly across from the cranberry bogs.
What's that, what street?
It's two pieces. One is 14 Plymouth Ave, and the other is Glenwood Circle. I couldn't see any of this, so one of my questions is, where's this thing going? By the water, because the real estate man might think that there's no impact, but I bought this to retire in a couple of years, and I'm looking out over a cranberry bog, and now I'm going to be looking out over a tower. So,
Okay, so you want to know where this is going?
yes, sir.
So do you know where the bog's at?
I know exactly where all of it is. I just don't know where on that property. It's about a,
If you're on Glen Charlie Road and you're looking at the bogs, you're looking to your left about, I would say 150 feet, correct, sir?
is it near the street or the water?
Can you see the water tank from your property?
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, because if you can see the water tank, it'd be, if you're across the thing here.
Do you show where it is? I just don't know where it's going.
So,
He's not gonna tell from that.
Yeah, I could,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're going here across.
is it okay to,
yeah, go ahead.
Across the street is this water tank here, see? So if you can see the water tank, then you might see this in the foreground, you know, the lower.
So you're on well out by the road?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because I own this, from that point around the corner and all the way around there.
Okay.
And it was like, if they're gonna put that away from the road, it's gonna be in my front.
No, we're putting it up on the road.
Minus the water. Okay.
All right, thank you.
No objection, thank you.
Those guys.
Could you just, you were away from the microphone for a minute, could you just make your last comment for the record?
Sure, I have no objection.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, anyone else want to speak against? I hear none. Anyone on the board want to say something, add something? Or Charlie, would you like,
No, I'm fine.
should you read with the plans?
I haven't seen them at all, so
You want to continue to look at them?
I don't think there's anything else that I could add, unless he could describe a little bit more of what he might do in the access road. I assume that the area is fenced off, so no one can get in there, it's properly signed and so forth. But if he could describe a little bit more of what the access road will be improved to be, whether there's going to be any runoff onto Glen Charlie Road, I certainly don't want to see that, but having not seen the plans at all,
So
I have no assessment.
the site is lower in Glen Charlie. You come in and it goes down, so there's no impact at all on Glen Charlie.
Give me an example of what you would do to improve the road, then.
Well, the bare minimum, we want to leave it as a country path going back there. If we had to, if we created a rut or something with our crane right there, we'd fix that. We put material in. If we found that it was, we needed to put material down to get traction, to get material, big machinery back there, we would put some material down.
How wide
We
is,
don't want to improve it substantially.
how wide is the road right now?
Well, no, our easement's 10 feet.
You going to have to do any clearing of the trees in order to get the crane in?
Not, only what is going to be necessary is actually build the site. That's right off, so basically the path goes in this way and we're just right off there. We're trying to minimize the removal of vegetation.
Let me ask you a question. The whole parcel, what's the existing building in the back, do you know? Is that?
The landowners,
It's a house?
yeah.
Okay. And they use the same gravel road to get there?
Yes.
Okay, and they're only granting you 10 feet access?
Yep.
Okay. Trying to think if they're okay with that. I mean, if he needs to put crushed gravel, he's gonna have to, because otherwise he gets stuck.
I don't think I have any problems with it. Once the tower gets built and everything, I would assume there might be a very infrequent visit to inspect the site, make sure everything is good, but you're not going to have an awful lot of traffic in and out, I would suspect.
Yeah, we've done a couple of those, so. All right, anyone else want to add something? I hear none, let's move to close it.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, what's the wishes?
I move to grant as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Jim to grant as presented. Any discussion on that motion? Discussion, conditions? Okay, hearing none, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jake, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 5-0, carries. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Right, we're gonna jump quick to go back to 16-19 and 17-19 Cedar Village. We're gonna be continuing this. Councilor Bello, wanna come forward?
Where are we on? Cedar Village?
Yeah. No, don't get on the pen because we're gonna continue. All right.
What's the next available date? Since
The
it's not a
12th.
full board. Of, it's fine with me.
So this is both, the what,
Should
A and
we-
B?
Should we open the hearing? Should we open the hearing?
I think if you're continuing the case, you don't need to open the hearing.
Very well. If you just write a small letter. Well, actually, we don't need something in writing.
You're on record now,
All right, very well.
so it's the board that doesn't have a full board, so.
Anyone here for this matter? For Cedar Village, anyone here?
Yes.
Yeah, just to let you know, the matters continue until June 12th. You will not be notified, so make sure if you have something to say to come here on June 12th.
So I can't say anything there tonight?
Nah, the public hearing is not open.
But what if it's not regarding the public hearing?
Nah.
No.
What if I want to appeal a building permit?
There's a proper procedure. If you have it.
What's the, I would love to know the procedure.
You have to see an attorney to do that. Thank you. Okay, sir, so there won't be notifications. We'll see you on June 12th. Okay, you guys want to make a motion? I can do that, to continue this to June 12th.
So moved.
Do I have a second to continue for June 12th?
Second.
Second by Rob. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, so it's 4-0-0. Very well. We go back to...
400 or 401?
I'm gonna vote.
That's right, it's abstained.
Okay, we'll vote on that.
Okay, 400, okay.
All right, we go back to Onset Fire District 18-19. Is your architect here? Yes. Very well.
Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on May 22nd, 2019, at 6:30 PM in room 320 of the Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571. To consider petition number 18-19 for a site plan review special permit variance for relief under Article 4, Section 442.2, Article 4, Section 444.6, and Article 15 of the Wareham zoning bylaws for Onset Fire District, care of Conoco Engineers and Scientists, 1 Street, Bridgewater, Mass. 02324, seeking to remove the existing Onset Fire District headquarters and construct new Fire District headquarters with associated parking lot, access drives, drainage facilities, and utilities for the site located at 4810 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, Mass. That's on Assessors Map 131, lots 1022, 1023, 1024, in the Commercial Strip and R130 zoning districts.
If I may just, I want to take 2 minutes of your time. Okay, we're gonna just jump quick to continue public hearing because the people waiting here for Farm Mechanics, there's nothing happening. So for 9-19 Farm Mechanics, 59 Main Street, I'm assuming some people here. Would What's the wish of the board? If people ask to continue, we can say yes or no. What's your wishes?
What's the time on the...
1919?
We could close it right now and call it.
Yeah, we're talking about pharmacists in the parking lot.
We just don't want the people to wait here. That's a long thing.
Who requested the continuance? Pharmacists?
Yet they did. It's up to the board to continue or not. So, who would like to make a motion to continue or not continue? Go ahead.
I just want to see what the deadline is for us to make a decision.
June 25th. You have another meeting.
I don't have a problem extending.
Make a motion.
So moved. I move to continue until June 12th.
Do I have a second to continue?
Second.
Second by Jake. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, abstained. June 12th. Sorry about that. All right, very well. Okay, we'll go back to our hearing. So can I name and addresses for the record, and let's hear it.
For the record, Jonathan Novak.
Want to take it outside, guys? Outside, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, sir.
For the record, Jonathan Novak, Conoco Engineers and Scientists. Damien Dimitrik is from Conoco, and Mr. Ted Galante from Ted Galante Architects.
And my apologies for being late. My apologies for getting here late.
That's fine. Okay, let's hear it.
So we are proposing a 13,500 square foot fire district. It's on Sand Pond Road, and it's over by the Salvation Army and Charlie's Place, that intersection over there. The waivers that we're looking for are for a municipal usage inside of an R130. The site is actually partially in the commercial strip and also in the R130 in the very back portion of the site, as well as an impervious coverage to over 15%, and then also for fuel storage and an aquifer protection. And then we'll run through it on the plans, and then as you guys have questions, feel free to stop me.
Let me just, sorry, back you up for 1 second. You're looking for relief for lot coverage and for fuel storage.
Yes, and then also, yes, and then we're also doing paving and grading for the commercial municipal usage inside of an R30, R130 district. So the very back portion of the site is outside of the commercial strip district.
How much?
It's roughly 35 feet. I'll show you on the plan.
You can jump 30 feet by law.
Yeah, no, well, it's 35 feet of paving and grading.
Beyond the zone line. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Let me ask you a quick question. We need to know the variances you're asking for. Which setback can you say again? Well, let's get the variances.
So the variance is for Article 3, Section 320, and that's for the dual usage, the overstepping into the grading and paving into the R130 district. The 15% impervious, which is the Article 4, Section 442.2, and then also for Article 4, Section 444.6, which is the fuel storage within the aquifer protection. It is an allowed use for emergency, so it's kind of a gray issue of whether or not the board considers it an emergency use.
So you want to have a gas tanks on the ground?
No, it's above ground storage.
How many gallons?
We think it's about 2,000 gallons. Diesel fuel.
And I'm sure you do like a containment.
Yes.
100%,
Yes.
epoxy, all that.
Yes.
All right, let's go back. Go back to the presentation.
So currently on the site, there is an existing structure and some H-bolts. Everything is going to be raised and cleared with a construction entrance and then compost sock for erosion protection outside of it. We're proposing structure, or the fire station here will have associated parking along here, reserved parking for handicap and the chief in this area. There is actually a dormitory area for, I believe we had four beds, so there'll be 4 people who will be able to stay overnight in this location, so that's part of the parking calculation. They'll be going in and out along Sand Pond. And then we have the dumpster location, overflow gravel parking as needed. And then again, this is going to be this is the location of the generator pad and the fuel storage is out back here. This right here is the approximate zoning line. So this is the commercial strip district. This portion here is the R130. So right from this here to the property line is right about 35 feet. The drainage design for this site, it's all going to be overland flow. It's going to be treated through 4 bays and then into a detention basin. There is a floodplain here. We are outside of the floodplain. We're not filling any floodplain area, so we don't have to do any compensatory storage. As an aside, we've been in front of conservation with an RDA. We have a negative determination from them. And then we were at the planning board last week for their recommendation on this site. And then for the most part, it's going to be associated utilities coming in to service the fire department. So we'll have gas, water, sewer connection, and then telephone and cable coming in from the street as well. There will be a portion of the overhead wires that will be converted to an underground duct bank because there's a utility pole in what would be the main emergency drive coming out.
Let me stop you for a second. The fuel tank is for the generator?
Yes.
Why don't you get one on natural gas? A generator run by gas?
It's actually for the generator and to fill the trucks. It's a dual use, yes. It's diesel fuel.
Yeah. Right now, the answer water fill that on trucks too?
I think they have the fuel tank at the existing fire district, the fire headquarters currently. And I think that's what their operating procedure is to fill them there.
2,000, I've been in the gas business before. 2,000 gallons is not much saving for the department to build it. I could see if they're doing 10,000 gallons, but getting 2,000 gallons delivered, they're not going to save a lot of money. Something to consider.
Okay.
I'm sure this is not going to finish tonight. Probably reconsider, have a gas generator, less maintenance, no problems with the variance, and or come back with a bigger tank if you're going to fill the truck. You're not going to save much money with 2,000 gallons to fill the one truck. I mean, the fire department.
Got it. No, I understand. I think they currently own a generator. They have a generator that they're going to use. That's a diesel generator. But I can talk to them about a larger tank if that's something they want to consider.
I'm not saying, I'm speaking by my own voice.
By your experience. Yeah.
The other board might say they may not allow fuel tanks on the R130.
I have a question on this line.
Yeah.
So, am I getting it right? You're going to tear the current building down? You're going to build this new building and then tear the existing building that's across the street from this down?
No. There's an existing pump station, lift station out back. So there's an existing structure on the site that's going to be raised.
Okay. So I look behind the Salvation Army and they cleared the land for this already. I look behind the Salvation Army, I see Baines Electric. Am I right? And then I see the water department.
Yep.
Okay. So where's the existing pump now that's filling these trucks?
It's at the existing fire district building.
Wants it?
Yes. It's on East Central Street, I think. It's 5 East Central.
No, I got it.
Yes.
Okay. I was getting a mixed understanding.
Got it.
So.
Right alongside the fire station, Jim. right alongside the fire station.
Yeah, I got it now. I got it now.
Yeah.
So it's, the fuel on site is a matter of convenience, not economy.
You know, I don't know that I can speak to that. I think the way they operate is that they keep the trucks full. When they return from an incident, they normally fill them there. I don't know the economic benefit.
Okay.
I can't speak to that directly.
I think personally, if they stay away from the R130, put it on the concrete pad, and go underground with double wall fiberglass, and put it 10,000 gallons, then save a lot more money and it's safer. That's my opinion anyway.
The tank itself is outside, it is in the commercial strip district. It's outside of the R130.
So this is just the pump that we see?
No,
This right here,
it's past the line. The tank is an hour.
The tank?
Tank within a casket, right?
yep, my apologies, I was looking at the property.
The tank is in the R-130. Yeah. So it was placed there out of convenience for the site, but if it needs to move, we certainly can do that. Yes, it's above ground.
We, like I said, check with the board. I recommend they go underground double wall tank with a video root system to detect any leaks, and it will work much better for everyone. But we'll continue now forever, but just check on that. All right.
Honestly, there's really not much to it. We meet the DEP stormwater standards, we meet the town stormwater standards. There's no variances being requested or anything outside of the norm of a typical site development other than those three. The impervious coverage were roughly 180,000 square feet on the three parcels. We're at about 50,000 square feet, so we're at 28% of impervious coverage. Now, that's just on the three parcels that this is on. It is for the betterment of the town, and then also they own hundreds of acres that are contiguous to this area as well. So in the overall sense of this, what the percentage of the impervious for the area that they own is much less than the 15%, but since we were isolating the development to these three parcels,
Because this is the watershed, it's only allowed 15 impervious, right?
yes.
Okay, nothing for nothing, you weren't supposed to clear that lot without permission. Over an acre, you're not supposed to.
Yeah,
But it's not, when it's over 50,000 square feet and you're planning to do a project, you shouldn't be cutting the trees. But
Yeah.
since the water department serves everyone, I think, for me, it's okay. All right, Robert, what do you got?
With the generator, the tank concern, how close to that last door? Now, this is going to be a drive-through situation, correct?
Yes, sir.
If a piece of apparatus came in, instead of driving through, swung in and backed in, would that cause an issue with the location of those two,
we do have
the tank and the generator?
we do have bollards around them.
Sorry.
We do have bollards around to protect. We can look at realigning them. The swing radius isn't an issue at the moment.
I kind of agree with you, Chairman. I would feel better with that underground in a tank setup, the wall tank. That way it would be out of the way. It'd be less impervious to some type of incident or whatever the case may be. Because fire apparatus, there can be issues, especially at night, no matter how good you are or whatever the case may be. And been there, done that. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I would move the generator towards near the concrete dumpster to like, Roger said, he knows a lot about fire trucks and stuff than me. That's close. God forbid there's fire, everybody running. It's in the way. All right, what else do you want to add, Robert?
That's it.
Ronnie?
I'm sorry if this is if you've already said this, but that the 15%, going over the 15%, how much over?
For the 3 parcels, we're at roughly 28%, so it's almost double for we have 28% impervious for the 3 parcels that are on, that this development is taking place on. The fire district owns several hundred acres of contiguous land that actually abut this property as well. So the impervious for the whole, the macro view, the mile-high view of what they own and what they're developing is well under the 15%, but purely on these 3, we're at 28%.
The 15% is not by ratio of lot size? Like, so I understand that they own a big area, but we're talking about within this space.
Yes, for the 3 parcels that we're developing, it takes up 28% of the 3 parcels that we are developing.
I'd like to know what the impact that might be. I don't know, Mr. Rowley might have any information you could share on that. The impact of the groundwater?
I wasn't given the plans to review, so I have no idea what they look like. I was just trying to search in the bylaw, though. I think that the board can approve up to 65% impervious cover if you see that there's no impact. If it's only going from, if it's only going from 15 to 28, there's a good chance it's probably not going to be significant. You're probably not going to be able to measure it, but I don't know what your groundwater depths are. I don't know what the stormwater situation looks like, so I really can't comment on it with an awful lot of expertise at this point.
So, take into consideration they own a lot of land. They could easily come here and attach another parcel to it, and they are well under 15%.
Yeah, the abutting parcel is 85 acres that they own.
So then why don't they do that, just to be within the bylaws?
More legal paper, more.
Yeah.
Well,
And to address your concerns about groundwater, we are directing 96% of the impervious to a recharge facility. So all of the fire department and then all of the parking lot is either captured through overland flow. So all of this is being directed into this, which will recharge back in the ground. This area, the entire building is going to be captured and then being directed back into this area here. There's pretty much everything along this, other than this little bit down here, where we just couldn't make the elevations work for impervious area, is being directed into a recharge facility. So it's not that we're not letting it get back in, we're directing it into a recharge area. And then this is typical Wareham beach sand. It's parks real quick right through, and Damien did the test pits out there, so that you can, or do you remember off the top of your head how deep what the groundwater was?
Groundwater was approximately, I want to say, 6 feet below grade. We have it at the back of the logs there. Yeah.
Historical groundwater was roughly 90 inches below grade.
Or
So
69.
70 inches. So 70 inches. So.
Okay, you proposing a settlement tank before it goes into the leaching area?
It's sewer connection.
No. I'm talking about the drainage.
There is.
Stormwater management, you're supposed to reach 44%.
Yes, 44%. So we have cascading sediment flow bays, which reach your 44% TSS removal. So for the overland flow, it will hit 44% prior to. And then everything is directed into.
You mean for these ripraps, it will meet the 44%?
Yes. Yeah.
I think TSS removal is 80%, isn't it, when you do the calculation?
So it's 44% pre-treatment. The infiltration basin achieves the 80% to get...
Is that tabulated in your
Yes, it's
calculations?
tabulated in the report, yes. Yeah, so
It could
the
be.
cascading 4 bays is considered the pre-treatment to get to the 44%. And then the infiltration basin itself is 80%.
Provided it has the pretreatment,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, we're gonna need the stormwater management report. Mr. Rowley review it.
Yeah, we did submit that, so
I've never seen anything, so I don't know. I wasn't asked to do any of the review.
Well, like I said, we'll give it, we'll let Mr. Rowley review it. All right, so,
If I could, Nazir, with respect to the question about the 15%,
yeah.
Section 443.1, for special permit uses, it says, any use permitted under 442.1, which I assume would be this use in the commercial district,
Right.
which exceeds the maximum lot coverage permitted under 442.1, which is 15%. You can exceed it, provided that the lot coverage does not exceed the maximum permitted in the underlying district, which I think is 65, and provided that mitigation for excess runoff is provided.
Correct.
So I think they probably are okay with that, and provided that the drainage does the job that it's supposed to do for mitigation.
You don't need a variance for that. So we should cover.
Okay.
And I believe the 30 feet, you could always encroach on the less, more restrictive zone, 30 feet. So you have 35, but based on the shape and topography of your lot, I see the 5 feet is fine.
yeah, the zoning setbacks are the same in the commercial strip for front and side. And then again, it's purely just because we're doing work inside of that area, so.
Right.
For the, yeah.
Okay. Jay?
I have a couple things. My name's Jake Morrison. I just want to let everybody know that I have an abutting business to this property. I do not have any problem at all with this project. I think it's a good project. I just had a couple questions. You guys had really good questions as well. Thank you. In the back of the property, it abuts the cranberry bogs. Are you guys planning on doing any type of planting or anything? So, because right now it's just clear cut straight through, and I know that the landowner had some concerns about that. He used to have a really big, you couldn't see anything. Now you can see directly through the property, and he was concerned about that. So I wanted to bring that up if you guys had any plans for doing any landscaping in the back. Landscape buffer.
So there's currently not a plan to do that, and that's actually what I was going to ask you. You mean a visual buffer to not see what's
Visual
happening?
buffer.
There's currently not a plan to do that, but that can be modified if that's a...
That would be something we'd like to see. That's it.
Billy would like to see that.
Yes.
Okay, so, just for the record, for the next hearing, we're not gonna wrap it up tonight. Next hearing, we'll have 2 more members, and apparently, because Jake he could associate with the comments, but he's not gonna be able to vote on that, because he has a conflict on the side, but it's okay to associate with this. All right?
If I could just make a couple of minor comments.
Yes.
The project is under very dire financial constraints, so it's very, so the question of adding a tank, an underground storage tank, is something that I think will be financially very difficult. We'll need to check into it and figure that out, as will the landscape buffer piece. But what I'll do is bring those back to the project manager, the owner's project manager, and the chief and the board, and see how we can make adjustments to accommodate some of those things.
If I could make one more comment. There was a very nice buffer there, and it was clear cut all the way back to the lot line, so.
Is that just recently that was clear cut?
Yes.
Yeah. That's right.
That's why I
I
wasn't
see.
sure, because we were told that
I see.
there was going to be a 100-foot buffer, and it's caught up right up to the
I see.
lot line now.
Okay,
So
then
that's why we're bringing it up.
completely get it.
I mean, just some, maybe pine trees or something.
Yep.
Evergreen. Anyone in the audience want to speak in favor? Anyone against?
I just have some questions.
Want to come forward? Just come forward, please, see what's your name and address.
Linda Sharp.
Have a seat, so you gotta speak to the mic, so
Yeah,
it's on record.
wasn't available. Linda Sharp on 3rd Street in Onset. I just have a question. Are they, is this the same firm that was, has clear cut what exists right now?
Where they cut, that's what they found that place, that new station. Did you see what they clear cut?
I did,
Yeah.
and I had a question about a fire hydrant that was banged into and covered over with wood chips and may have contributed to part of the problem in Onset water. So I just wondered, and also then I hear about the 100-foot barrier that was cut, even though it was supposed to be left there. So those are a couple of questions that I have.
Well, I can't answer you about the hydrant. The buffer was a suggestion, we're not sure. I mean, we don't have exactly how wide this buffer is being cut, we didn't check into that. So I'd like to see a buffer, but I don't know what the hydrant maybe.
We were unaware that they had clear-cut the lot, to be honest with you. So,
But what's the story with the hydrant, she's asking?
Well, I think that
Right now,
the way I heard the questions, and correct me if I'm wrong, is this the same firm that did the work clear cutting and damaging the hydrant? And the answer is unequivocally no. I don't know. I think we were both unaware, both firms were unaware that the site was clear cut. We knew that there was talk of that happening, but it was done through the district, so we're not really involved in that piece. We're designing the building, my firm. These guys are our consultants designing the landscape, the civil engineering around that. But the clear cutting and the fire hydrant, I'll bring it back to the fire chief, but I don't know. It was not us. So.
Okay, yeah, that's my concern.
Yeah.
And then also, I couldn't see the map from where I was sitting. Can I just go closer and be informed where the building is in relation to the onset water?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just wanted to see where, you know, onset water.
this is the parcel that is going to be, and that's this is going to sit on. Yeah, this is the Southeast Company, Turkish Spices, I think. The pond is right back here, just off to the side.
And, okay. Well, thank you.
All right,
Okay,
we
thank
good? Thank you. All right, anyone else want to speak against? All right, so I guess you're gonna go back to your board. So, you want to go back to your board, discuss the generator and the fuel tank, maybe relocate them if they can't afford the underground, maybe relocate them, like Mr. Haskell said. It's a hazard in front of the trucks.
I can see and I'll just float this question for discussion, but I could see, there you go. Right now, on this is the generator. They could be tucked into the side over here. It's a matter of pulling the truck here and then fueling that way. So it would be out of traffic's path, which may be reasonable. Our electrical system is entering this side of the building, so we want to have a generator very close to that. We ended up putting it.
But you really want the fuel tank next to the building, that close?
That's an open question. That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Open tank in the air.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are
We'll work on it.
revisit and work on it.
Yeah.
We need to see the stormwater, have Charlie review it. You guys gotta put some money in the account so we can pay him. We gotta have a 53G account. If you talk to your chairman, he knows what we're talking about. And you guys wanna coordinate with Charlie over the stormwater management or a few questions he has?
Yeah.
Some technical questions. and hopefully we could wrap it up next time. So I guess you are at the variance issue with the impervious area, and you only have a 5 feet variance, not 30 here. So I think it should be fine, personally. I guess.
I think it might be 35 feet in
It is 35.
I believe so. One of the other,
Check on it. I
one of
haven't
the other
done.
issues is the town assessor would like to see the lots combined when there's development overland property lines. So a perimeter plan being submitted defines the site
Yeah,
and merges the lots.
The sign, you have to go to planning board.
yeah, do just a Form A on it.
Form A.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if the assessors would like to see this, you don't have to, but if you can, it'd be nice.
Oh, yeah, there was some discussion about whether or not just to have an easement document for the grading on the neighboring property. And it's one of those things is that they own the property, so it would only be in when they transfer the property that the easement would need to be granted.
And A&R, something like this, it won't cost much. So if you guys could do it, it'd be nicer. It makes the assessor life easier for taxes and stuff like that.
Well, we'll have to look at, well, just because the abutting property is also the one that has the pond on it, so just in case there are any restrictions, it might not be allowed for transfer. We'll have, there'll be some digging that we'll have to do for it.
And also, we'd like to see like some buffer, some kind of hemlocks, arborvitaes, pine trees, something that the department can afford. I know they spend a lot of money, we don't want to burden them much. So we have, so the variance, you had 3 variants or 2 you asked?
3.
So we know the 15%, that's gone. We know the 30 feet, you good. What's the third one?
The fuel. The fuel.
The fuel.
Now,
So
and we'll look into that.
look into it. If you can, if they can't afford it, why can't you put it near the dumpster? It's too far.
The underground feeders for a generator, from a generator to a building, are, multiple hundreds of dollars per square foot, per linear foot. And so
You put the generator here, but the fuel tank there on the line, no? Check it
we'll
out.
take a look. We'll take a look. Yes, yes.
But I think for the long run, for the department to save money in buying fuel by the truck, they're better off with something underground.
Yeah.
Buy a whole truckload, 10, 12,000 gallons. Check it out. Anything else you guys like to send this gentleman to work on?
Is there going to be any road work done in and around this complex, over and above what's there now?
There is a plan by Mass DOT for road work on these streets, but it's been in the works since 1984 in planning, and I don't know when and if that's going to happen, so it's really not part of our project in any way. So we don't have the ability to talk to that directly.
Okay, what condition are those roads in now? Because I know the apparatus comes out of that building now that are there, but now with the whole department being there, there's going to be 3 times the amount of heavy truck traffic in that area. So my question to you is what condition are those roads in now? I apologize, I haven't been there for a while to see. But if you're going to wait for Mass DOT to do something, you're going to be waiting a long time.
Yeah, I think that's
Long time.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I believe Sand Pond was in pretty good shape.
Okay.
It's not in good shape at all, no.
It's not?
No, potholes and everything right now, but I'm sure they'll fix it, I'm not sure that, I would hope they would.
Is that in the plan, though, to do that?
Not as part of this project. We're not planning to fix the road system.
Any plans? Got a set of plans?
We will be repairing the areas where we're saw cutting and tying into the utilities in the street. So,
Can you show us quick the architectural design of the building?
Yes.
And go through it?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, the site, as we see it here, Cranberry Bog, Cranberry Highway here, that's the building footprint, roughly 13,500 square feet. The buffer zone is there. That's the overall site development. The building plan then, that sort of reddish shape, this is the overall building plan. This portion is a 5-bay apparatus room. There are apparatus that are going to respond in both directions. There are a number of pieces.
So they're back to back?
Yes.
You're going to be able to put 2 pumps back to back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a pump here, and there's even a little bit of room for trailers along the center and boats and such, so they'll be responding out that way. There's a compressor room and some turnout gears all in here, and then the administration side is that side. So there's a training room, 4 bunk rooms, kitchen, offices, dispatch in that corner. So in terms of vertical height, this portion of the building needs to be the tallest, but this portion of the building is standard office space fundamentally, so it can be shorter. So it's a 2-story building in that regard, and it is just the size to fit all of the components. The front entrance of the building is here, which is this portion of the plan. There's a corridor along here. Really, the only public area is the training room and any of the training officers or fire prevention or chief in this area. Then it's all, there's a door that privatizes this portion because that's really the living quarters for the firefighters, and then the apparatus bay is there. The building is from the street. There's 5 bays along here. The door sizes are 14 feet wide by 14 feet tall, which is the minimum we recommend for an apparatus, so we don't have to buy custom vehicles, we can get the right equipment in and out of there. As I said, this portion of the building is the tallest portion. It really only needs to be this tall to fit the vehicles, but to maintain and work on the vehicles, we need to lift the cab and have a certain height above that, so it's 18 feet to the top of that lifted cab, and we need a little bit of room for structure and various ductwork and equipment. So the building slopes up. The original design had the building way up here, but we couldn't afford it, and so we started to cut the building down. So we're building it as economically as possible. That's the front entrance on that side. It's a little bit of a weird view because we're looking at that end of the building, and you're seeing that portion in the back. This is the rear of the building, so this side are the bunk rooms and the bays on the north face. This is probably the most telling, where you can see that here's the road system here. This is the apron where the vehicles come out of, and the roof comes up and over with an entrance on that side where there's parking. The materials are a cement board panel and on a rain screen, very cost effective, and then standing seam or corrugated metal roof that comes up and over and drops back down. So as cost effective as we can possibly get has been where we've been heading. So.
In the apparatus, are those glass doors or the full?
They are not glass doors because we're in a large missile impact zone. It's called large missile impact. It sounds like an ICBM, but it's really not.
Hey, I thought you knew something I didn't.
130 mile an hour winds that are we're within a mile of that wind zone, and so we need to have them so that they can withstand wind-blown debris.
Nice building.
So that's the overall building, and I think that's it. That's it. So that's it.
I have a question that's, you may not even know the answer, it's not related to this facility necessarily, but it potentially could be. So this is the second building, I guess, for Onset Fire Department, and there was talk about there is an existing fuel tank in Onset now?
Yes. At 5 East Central, that headquarters, there's a fuel tank there.
Now, has there been talk about maybe having the refueling done at this location and perhaps removing the other and just having that increase, so that there's one spot for refueling and...
I think there's also fuel at the water department there, though I don't know the details of that, so that, you're right, I don't know the answer to that question.
Just curious.
Yeah.
There's a 2,000-gallon tank right beside the building in Onset,
Right.
down on Central Ave.
Right.
And for a building this big with the amount of apparatus, you need fuel here. You can't be running back and forth to the old facility.
Seems like that's the best approach, and I'm not sure what the plan is for the old facility.
I'm sure you're gonna abandon it.
I think it's going to be abandoned and either
That's what I
dispensed with or
carry on.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Maintaining both buildings would be
I heard
economical.
they want to make a taffy pulling shop out of it.
Saltwater Taffy's coming back to Onset?
All right. Anything else you guys want to ask?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a couple of, with respect to the the possibility of an underground tank, one thing I would suggest would be that the smaller tank might be appropriate because it isn't an economy thing. Is the diesel fuel available for the apparatus when they need to come back from a run and fuel the truck up so it's full? So they're not using a lot of diesel fuel the way that you might a regular service station or a construction company. That having been said, if you're talking about an underground facility, if I heard correctly, they said the groundwater is 70 inches below. So I would want, if it was going to be underground, to have some indication of what sort of protection would be for the groundwater resources in that area. Again, going back to the requirements of that section that deal with the 15% coverage, it says that so long as the area is protected. So from that standpoint, probably an above-ground facility would be better.
Yeah.
I'm willing to hear what they might have to say. The fire department probably knows better than anyone what their need is in terms of the total diesel storage. I would assume that they will go elsewhere for their other service vehicles that don't run on diesel.
Yes.
That they fill the chief's car and the deputy's car and the pickup and so forth, maybe across the street, or not, I don't know where they do it, but that would go somewhere else.
It is a little tricky to put tanks on the ground when there's water table high, but what they do, when they do it, they fill it up with water. and
They
sand.
would,
So you said it.
well, they would certainly have to do a buoyancy test on it if the tank or the structure it sits in is going to be in the groundwater, because if the groundwater comes up too high along the sides, it can pop it out of the ground.
Well-
So you have to be careful about that. There's a calculation that's very simple to do to figure that out. But
I've built them before, so you fill, well, that's how I said, you fill them up with water, and you set them down, cement them, everything, then you pump the water out, and they're not going anywhere. But
provided they're properly anchored and provided they have enough concrete on the base that overcomes the weight of the water,
It's a
so.
way- It's a detail that you do.
Yeah.
But it-
So it's just something to think about.
It's not a problem, but I don't know if they're gonna be able to afford that.
Yeah, just something to think about. If the applicant could, Ken says he's only got 1 or 2 sets of plans. I would like a copy of the plans if I could, so that I can use them along with the drainage report, make my evaluation.
Do you need a hard copy of the drainage report as well?
Got one right here. All set.
Do you want us to drop it off at the town hall or deliver?
If you drop it off at Ken's office, that would be fine. I can pick it up from there. I will have to submit an estimate to his office for the cost of services.
Okay.
And,
You call and get that
yeah.
estimate.
But I can do that right away. I'm sure I could see the plans at Ken's office and then get the estimate out right away, so we're not holding him up any amount of time.
Just to go back to the fuel thing, if for some reason, say it's out of the question going underground, maybe Robert could coordinate, because he knows more about fire trucks, coordinate with you what safe area to put the tank. I mean, he knows,
Just got thrown right under the bus.
I don't know.
I'll go with you.
Talk to the chief.
Yeah,
go with you.
Because like you said, I don't think that's a good spot for a hair backing up a truck. Just
Mr.
pass
Chair,
it around. See
I'll go down and talk to the chief, and if he's got any ideas, I'll get back with you.
See where you
Let you
can
know.
move it. We're just trying to go forward.
Understood.
So maybe next time we could wrap it up.
Understood.
All right?
Yep.
Okay, so you guys all set? All right, you guys can come back on the 12th?
Is that that's the date? June 12th is the continuation?
Yes. Can you do on 12?
Yes.
All right, can I have a motion to continue?
So moved. Continue to the 12th.
June 12. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Robert, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Do we want to give them the plans we have right there?
Just
so we can get going on.
No, we'll run down the block.
Yeah, my way home.
Something like that.
Place all the time.
Oh, you're good.
Something have it go around.
About the fuel tanks?
Don't have a fuel tank. Fuel elsewhere or have a truck?
Yeah, they do.
Fuel truck.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I just want to
Yeah, that's a card in case you need to contact me.
Okay.
All right, yeah, and I've got a set of plans.
No, it's actually.
No,
They
it's
have
not.
three trucks coming, no?
What happens if you can't make it and there's a fire?
No, town owned.
What happens if it breaks
Fire
down?
department, let the fire department have it. Excellent,
Sir?
Question. A little tongue in cheek.
All right. Is Ray Ave here?
He's in the back room, in the back corner.
All right, 13-19, 2416 Cranberry Highway LLC.
We've been making tweaks and changes every time.
Understood. Thank you.
That's it. Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Robert Perry.
Bob, can I interrupt you just 1 minute?
Of course you can.
Thank you.
You always do anyway.
Nazi, I'm going to anyway, yeah, so it was nice to me to be polite, but, Ray Avenue, don't forget I have to abstain on that. Do we have enough members? Guys sitting here for nothing?
I can't speak again. I can't have any attention of the board. I'd like to talk to you people.
You have to come to the hearing so you can talk to us. You never at the hearing.
No.
Let him talk to us.
You've canceled 2 of mine, so
All right, you want to come forward quick?
I'd like to talk to those, if that's possible. I requested that the last time I was here.
I mean, you want to discuss the matter? This is the deal before you go forward. There's not enough members.
I'm not looking for a vote.
Thank you. But we can discuss it if there's not enough members for you.
Goodbye.
All right, sorry about that. If you can hang around. What? You can hang around, wait for your turn, we can talk.
Okay, good, I'll hang around, that's good.
Just hang around.
I'm around this one.
You're welcome. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Councilor Perry, the public hearing's still open, just names for the record, and
Yes, Robert Perry, representing the applicant.
And Luke DiStefano with Bowler Engineering, Southborough, Massachusetts.
all right. All right, where did we leave it last time at?
Well, the board was kind enough to give us a lot of recommendations. I don't want to speak for Charlie, but I think that we've pretty well addressed everything that the board raised. We've addressed, I trust, everything that Charlie raised. We didn't get into the stormwater issues, and I'm happy we didn't, because none of us know an awful lot about it other than Charlie and the engineers. So they've worked together closely. I think they've worked out all of those issues. I think the biggest issue I remember is somebody, and it might have been you, Nazi, said, get the sign down to 18 feet. So we did that.
Well, that wasn't the biggest issue, but...
Well,
It was the tallest issue.
it was the tallest issue, and aren't those kind of synonymous? Anyway, we do still have a couple of minor issues with the sign I have to talk to you about. I've given you new plans that reflect all of the changes that have been made, and all in the hopes of complying with everything that the board and that Charlie wanted, and hopefully to convince you that this is a project that you should be approving here.
There's a letter, Charlie, you sent a letter a couple of days ago. I didn't read it. I forgot it.
Yeah, I did.
Let's go through Charlie's recommendations, see what, I read them, but I forget to...
Happy to do so, because Bowler and Charlie have worked very closely, and I think they've addressed, I hope they've addressed everything.
All right, let's hear it from Charlie.
Okay. The letter suggests that they have adopted a lot of the recommendations that I asked for. I just got the plans tonight, the same as you, so I haven't had a chance to check them off. But assuming that what's here is accurate. I see no reason why we couldn't accept the plans. I could take a few minutes just to go over it if you want. There is one issue, though, that I'm still a little bit unclear on. That's on page 2 of the comments by Bowler, and it was my comment, number 10, as to access and utility easement. That's number 10 on my letter of the other day.
Of May 19th?
Yeah, and the question was, what is meant by a protection development? That was in their explanation as to what the access and utility easement was all about. And giving that a little bit of thought, remember that the planning board signed an approval not required plan creating 3 lots here for the same individual who owns all 3 at the present time. At least that's my understanding. That utility and access easement at the present time has a driveway which is unidirectional. It's a right turn in and it's a right turn out. So my recommendation to the board is you consider what the implications of that would be for the abutting property. And a comment is made here on page 2 of the Bowler Engineering letter with respect to that, suggesting that it might be appropriate for the construction on the adjacent lot, and they say that the geometry of the design should not have to change regardless of future traffic counts or traffic patterns or counts. Question I have is, if that doesn't change, that suggests that there's going to have to be another way into that second lot or a way out of that second lot. So I don't know how you tie anything that may happen on the second lot to what's happening on this lot. I don't see how that's possible, because you have nothing before you on the second lot.
Correct.
So I guess my suggestion would be that at this particular point, because there's no indication as to what could take place there, that particular utility and access easement be applied to this particular project alone, and with no implications whatsoever as to whether it's suitable or unsuitable for any future development. They state that Mass Highway has suggested that they've looked at it, it's okay, but I don't know that they've seen any plans for what's going to take place on that second lot. So that's my only concern with what's in here. The rest of the technical details, I'm pretty comfortable with. We got rid of the drainage issue, which was a sticking point for me, and I understand that earlier today with a telephone call to me that was resolved, and a quick look at the plan suggests that it has been. But so this is the only issue that I have that's left with the plans that might need some discussion with the board.
I guess we could condition it strictly for this project. If
You
there's a
could.
further development.
You could. It's your choice as to whether or not you want to deal with it or you don't.
I don't see any reason the board has to deal with it.
But I just think this needs to be something. I don't really accept the explanation that the geometry should not have to change regardless of the future traffic movements and counts. It doesn't make any sense for the development of an adjacent lot. So there's going to be discussion on that at some point, which might revise this particular point of access and egress. So I think for the moment, it can only be developed or applied to this lot and nothing in the future. We don't know what it's going to be.
Exactly. Mr. Rowley has a point. Say McDonald's go in the second lot. Now a huge impact on the entrance, on that one entrance, so we have to revisit. We cannot just give you blindly access for the other lots, but my personal opinion. I agree with Charlie from that one entrance to service the other lot because we don't know what's in the other lots going, or the other 2.
Hold on, let me open a plan. I got to look. Maybe I missed something. By the second lot, you're talking the lot to the north.
No.
Yeah, the lot between them and the old Nissens lot.
We're not considering
Exactly. That's the
that.
one, and I don't know. It's obviously so changed, but not this plan.
Yeah.
I don't know what might someday go on the other lot of anything.
You can see
That's the point. That's the point
but
that
I
I'm
wanna-
bringing up, that we don't know what it is, and so it ought to be restricted to what happens on this lot with the appropriate easement for this particular lot. And then if something happens on that adjacent lot in the future, then that whole entrance complex would have to be looked at again in terms of the access in and out. Because right now, it's a right turn out to go north on 28, and it's a right turn in coming from the south. There's no access onto Cranberry Highway going south at that point. So the people that are on that adjacent lot couldn't use this to go south onto Cranberry Highway. The only way they could do it would be to go through the gas station lot, which I assume they wouldn't want.
And I think we understand that, Charlie. I think the purpose of the easement isn't to say that that driveway may never change regardless of what happens on the abutting two properties. The easement is really there to provide access and utility rights to the abutting property should, in the future, the additional properties be developed. You as a board, as well as the planning board and the rest of the review agencies in town, would still have every ability to review and modify any applications that would come before you on the abutting two properties. Our contention is that we looked at some potential options that, may or may not be available, and then the driveway, we don't think will change regardless of what happens on the abutting property, should they ever be developed. There's no plan that I'm aware of. I think all we're saying is that right now, based on what we know and what we think, that driveway may never change. We're not saying it won't. We're not saying that you guys don't have the right to ask for modifications in the future.
So you have no problem with put restriction for future development, you'll have to come back to us or the planning board?
We would have to do that anyway.
Right?
Not to use the driveway. So that driveway, it will have restriction to be used only for the gas station / store. If you want to use it for future development, you will have to come back to zoning or planning.
We'd have to anyway. I think you'd have to do that anyway.
To use the easement. I mean, they have to for the project itself, but for the easement.
The second lot doesn't need the easement. It's got frontage on Cranberry Highway all by
Well, that's what I'm
itself.
saying. That's why I don't understand the whole issue. I mean,
The issue-
we can develop that second lot without getting into this easement at all.
Right.
That's the point.
Charlie, let me say.
Okay.
You're absolutely right, if you make it, but however, you might, the landowner might go develop a project without access to 28 and use that easement, and that's a huge impact on it.
I'm basing my comments,
But they wouldn't be able to do that without
I
approval
mean, I don't see how
from...
any commercial project can be developed on this lot.
I'm
without
basing my
coming to you
comments on their
overall.
review, Bob.
That's Charlie said.
Let me just read what they say.
Right.
Potential future development of the abutting two parcels was contemplated while designing the shared access drive along Cranberry Highway. VAI reviewed this design preliminarily with Mass DOT and provided Bowler with design parameters. The intent of the design is to allow for future development to connect and minimize impacts. The geometry of the design should not have to change regardless of future traffic patterns and counts. I don't see how you can say that at all. Any proposed development in the future will have to go before the board. That's accurate. But that doesn't mean that this access doesn't have to change in the future. It could.
If I could, Mr. Chairman. Sean Kelly with Vanassin Associates. Charlie, I appreciate your comment. Just a little bit of background. We had some preliminary meetings with Mass DOT, with the District 5 office, when we looked at this development plan. I know we're only here tonight for the gas station, and I certainly respect your concern, Charlie. But just to be clear, when we did this design, one of the things that we were cognizant of is, are we going to build something on Tow Road that ultimately we would have to rip out and reconstruct if the development of the northern lot and the rear lot move forward? I agree there's no definitive development program right now, but when we did our analysis, we also did a supplemental. It's not in the report, so you wouldn't have reviewed it, Charlie, certainly. But we looked at the impacts of different retail uses, a large retail block, potential fast food type use. We looked at the traffic impacts that would generate. And based on that, that was really one of the considerations for doing, instead of just limiting the turn lanes and formalizing it, was really providing that second lane on Tow Road. So, we're only here tonight for the gas station, for sure, the gas station convenience store. But even if this became McDonald's, or even if this became, I believe it was about 10,000 retail plus or minus, we'd still be coming before you with the same mitigation plan. And it would still be the same plan we submitted to DOT. whether they do the additional development here or not, DOT is not going to allow that driveway to operate in any manner other than a regular driveway. For us, the main concern with this site was we don't want to have any more left-hand turns occurring either to or from Cranberry Highway along this frontage. It's simply too proximate to the signal. You have queuing issues. You have issues where people are literally today, making left turns from the site with a car length through the signal itself. So even if this gets developed and that gets developed, at no time will there be a plan to change this to full access. At no time will there be a plan to signalize that. It's simply too close to this signal here. This driveway would still operate as a right out. And again, everything that's going either to the north would come out on Toll Road and go that way, and anyone coming in from the north would again come in Toll Road going this way. And again, we've done some, and I don't want to call it back the napkin analysis, but we've looked at additional traffic with some other reasons to make sure, because we don't want to find out to come out and rip this up after the fact, and we build it to have a two-lane approach that isn't needed now for this project alone. So we have looked at it, and I'm confident that this is not going to change. DOT's not going to give us black. It's simply that was their primary concern, that it is right out. So, all I can tell you is that while we're here for this tonight, this has been designed to accommodate more development down the road, and that the act is going to change.
Okay, so you shouldn't have a problem modifying the language on that access, like Charlie said.
That's above my pay grade.
One other point with respect to that, remember that there are two other lots. There's no guarantee that those two lots will be designed or combined in such a way that the access goes from Cranberry Highway in and then out on Toll Road. They could be sold tomorrow to two separate entities that wants to do two separate things and have separate driveways with no connection whatsoever. So to try and suggest that any discussions that have been had with Mass Highway is any way tied to this other than what's on this plan, I think is inappropriate, does not belong in this particular public hearing. There's nothing before you other than that, which is on the plan, the site plan that you have today.
I personally agree. I don't know the rest of the board, but I do agree with Charlie with that. If you guys have no problem with that, I don't see why can't you modify the language?
Modify the language in what respect, Massey?
Like what Charlie wants it to.
That access, that utility easement would be used for access
For that gas station.
for this particular site plan only.
But are you saying that it should be restricted from other future uses?
No, unless we see the future that will come back.
No, because what I'm saying is that anything that might happen on that next lot, and none of us know what that would be at this particular point in time, either that lot or the one behind it, what's to say that that access might not be modified to become a single point of access for both lots? I don't know.
Well, it may, by this board or by the planning board.
That's right.
Right.
So to put something in this suggests that you can just leave it arbitrarily open because something may take place on the next lot, that's sort of like suggesting to the town that it has the right to make a taking over someone else's lot for a future road that may not happen. And I know that you probably agree with me on that, Bob, that that's not appropriate to do. And
Well, I agree that's not appropriate to do, but I don't really equate that to this issue.
it's sort of a same idea in that we're tying what may happen on the lot to what Mass Highway says on this.
Well,
know.
maybe I'm misunderstanding. I thought that the whole issue about that was about a utility easement, so they could bring water and sewer and electricity in through this section of the plan.
It says access and utility on the plan. It said so on the...
Access the issue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the issue Charlie's raised, the access, not the
Okay, so
utility.
there's no
You
problem
don't need it,
bringing water in?
you don't need it for utilities.
No problem with gas?
No.
It's just
Traffic.
It's just the traffic.
Activities are there.
So we don't know what's going to happen there, and I'm simply saying
So if
that...
somebody wants to build something on the other lot, and their traffic flow fits this, fine. If it doesn't, it needs to be modified.
And it's going to be up to your board to decide whether or not it's appropriate in conjunction.
So
Might have to be 4 lanes, who knows?
So the
don't
word
know.
access needs to be cut out.
Exactly.
No, you can't say access because it's their only point that they can get into the lot off of Cranberry Highway. It has to remain as access. My point is it should remain as access only for this development and nothing else. So if they want to come back with something later on, they may have to improve something else on Cranberry Highway.
I don't want to
on-
restrict them from using it in the future. I don't want to limit them to using it only for this location.
Well, that's my concern also. I think, you know,
There's nothing else before you, Jim.
with all due respect.
We're not restricting them from not using it, they might have to widen it.
But you're asking me to vote that this can never be used for anything else.
That's our
That's what I
concern.
think you're being asked to vote. I don't.
That's what I'm
I've
hearing.
got problems with that.
If it's okay to use it for this and maybe used for other things in the future, I'm okay with that. But to say, this is for this gas station and can never be used for any abutting property, I think that's a little too restrictive.
I'm not suggesting that it should be quite that restrictive. What I would suggest would be that it's under the uncertain conditions of what may happen in either of those other two lots. We don't know what may happen with this. It may be that
For this use, and future uses merit future review.
until such time as it can be shown that with the proper study, with an application made to this board or to the planning board, whichever the case may be, that it remains an appropriate use. It may not be. It may be that circumstances will change to where this becomes a common driveway. I don't know that. I'm suggesting it should not be a common driveway right now because we don't know what's going to happen on that next lot.
Let's make it simple. Say somebody buys the lot in the back, open an insurance agency. Apparently, that's plenty for insurance agency. Say they put a McDonald's, we all agrees that's not
But
right.
either use still needs to come back to the board and say, may I?
Correct.
That's correct. That's correct.
So,
And that's our
And you know,
contention.
the problem here is you're asking me to do something on land that belongs to a third party. I mean, that's not something I can commit here tonight by any means, and I don't,
What is the easement that's been granted to the applicant that's before us?
planning board approved the Form A plan with that so that there could be, and the real intent was overall was utility easement, but it's not what was done. It's
Well, it was shown on the plan as an access and utility.
access and utility. I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
So-
That's what it says.
I would assume that there's going to be some sort of a document drafted that gives the occupant of this site the right to use that.
Well, of course.
Because a
It's an
Form A
easement.
plan, a
It's
Form
an
A
easement.
plan doesn't
Applies
do
to
it.
all three lots. that are
But a
owned
form,
by-
won't
by
he be
Granway
given
Realty Trust.
won't he be given some sort of a document that grants him rights over that? Because he won't own it.
No. He will be given a deed with an easement, yes.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. How did they do A&R? What's the front? I know the one to the left, it's on the Cranberry Highway. What's the other lot frontage?
On Tow Road.
But not on Toll Road?
They're all three
Yeah, the other one's on
has
Toll Road.
150.
So I mean, if somebody puts...
All
an
three
insurance
have
agent on their
150,
lot, they're gonna use
150
Toll Road
feet.
anyway. It's not- No, that's why Charlie's talking about the other lot. We're really talking about Lot 2. Lot 3 would be, you know, nobody would come
So
up in and out
apparently
this
the
way.
lot to the left, they have their own access if they do. So that you're concerned when they go develop lot on Toll Road.
The lot between Nissens
It's
and...
being presented to you tonight that this access going in here will satisfy the requirements of both lots for access off of Cranberry Highway coming from the south, and will be appropriate for both lots for any property usage on both these lots going to the north by coming out of that site. We don't know what other access points may be allowed on that adjacent lot. We don't know what's going to happen to the north of it, whether or not they will ever be connected. So we have no way of knowing that this particular access is good for anything other than this one lot.
All right. Let's just go back and ask the board. I personally agree with Charlie. Bob, what do you think?
You don't know what's going to happen to these lots.
But do you agree with Charlie or you don't?
I have questions, I do, as far as, is that,
Can we do some kind of language that says that
Yeah.
it's, well, I understand what the question is, that it's, as it stands, and in the current condition of the other two lots, it can be used as access to all lots in their current condition.
Not
with
built
this
or
like
not,
this.
just
Not
built.
built, as like this. That way, there's still access to these lots.
right.
And
That's the
there's,
law anyway, isn't it?
well,
We can't build a McDonald's without coming back to you.
No, I think she's
I
saying,
understand what
can they
Charlie's
use it
saying.
as
I agree
access?
with what he's saying.
The way it is right now, they could not get into that lot because of the way the design of the system is. They've got curbstones in there, they've got limits of construction, so without additional work on that second lot, nobody could get in there. They'd have to do something more.
In this state, though, it's still, in the way that it's drawn here, I mean,
They can drive in on the driveway and park, and that's it. They can't go any further.
well, I agree with what you're saying, that, obviously, I think that that language, that it's acceptable for the other lots, shouldn't be in there, but as they said, it does have to come in front of the board if they're going to do anything anyway.
So you disagree with Charlie? Jim?
You know where I stand. I think that to me, it looks like it's all set up to enter all 3 parcels. Right now, we're giving them permission to enter one, and they come back in the future. If it's big enough, another one, good, use it. If it needs to be made bigger, then make it bigger then. I'm fine with it.
No questions. No comments, I'm okay with it at this time.
I agree with Charlie, so you get 2 that agree with Charlie, so we have to modify it.
And again, I think what we're okay with is if the board wants to condition this approval with some language that says, should the applicant or should anyone look to come back to develop either of the 2 abutting lots, they have to do so with the board's approval. And that gives you the power over that driveway. Should it be a McDonald's, should it be a 50-story skyscraper, you then have the ability to modify that driveway however you need to address whatever the proposed use or uses may be. So we're okay with that language if that satisfies Charlie's concern as well as the chairman's concern.
So long as it's spelled out clearly in the findings and in the conditions of the special permit, I have no problem with that. Just so that it's clear that...
We're fine with that. Perfect.
Councilor, you agree with that? You want to talk to the owner quick?
Can we come back to that at the end of the hearing tonight, and I'll tell you my position at that time, okay?
We'll table it, we'll table it, we'll hear the other hearing, then you come back in?
No, that means, is there any more on this matter?
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, yeah, I'd like to know what other issues we're addressing here on my matter tonight.
Okay, what other
And
issues
before
you have, Charlie?
I leave, come back to this, okay?
No, I'd like a few minutes to just check and make sure that everything that they've said is on the plan is here. I think it is,
Yeah.
but I haven't had a chance to flip through to see.
You want to take a quick recess and hear Ray Avenue?
No, it's fine. I mean, he could look at the response quick.
Well, I could take the plans out in the other room and go through them if you wanted to do other business, and then come back and
I
report.
don't have a
later.
problem with that. I have no problem with that.
10 minutes?
That's fine.
You guys mind?
That's up to you.
So instead of saying doing nothing, we just hear the other person, we table you for 10 minutes. You don't mind?
Won't take
Get
long.
paid by the hour, don't you?
No,
Oh, you don't? By the project?
by the hearing.
Oh, okay, no wonder why you're not happy.
No, I'm
Delighted.
I've got a 2-hour ride home, so it really makes 10 minutes, makes no difference.
Believe me, I've been to hearings until 12 midnight.
Oh, don't I know it.
I just want to clarify one thing. I half agree with what he said, what Charlie's saying. I just,
Now we can't discuss it because
Okay.
they're out. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Ray Ave, Mr. Grosso. Yes. Come forward. All right, 23-19, public hearing still open for Ray Ave.
Yeah, you can use either one.
Just have a seat, say your name for the record.
Good evening, zoning board of appeals. My name is Anthony Grosso, owner of Commodore Motor Enterprises at 24 Sandwich Road. I've been a resident, raised a family, and multiple business owner in the town of Wareham for 35 years. I have come before this board to apply for a zoning permit on 1 Ray Avenue from commercial strip to mixed use for the purpose of transferring the current Class 2 used car license to 1 Ray Avenue from 24 Sandwich Road. I have met with all departments and with the assistance of town engineer, Outback Engineering, Paul Blanchard Architect, Susan Davis Landscape Design, put this site plan review. I do understand that Susan Davis is a preliminary design to be forwarded to a registered landscape architect for final design. The project will take the present breezeway, which is right in the middle there, and convert it into my office. The garage will remain as a storage. No repairs will be performed on site. The present carport will be converted into a enclosed one-car showroom. The car lot parking area will be sectioned off by fencing and landscaping to eliminate the interference with tenants and abutters. All renovations will include the present colors and design. No additional structures will be built. No outside speakers or intercoms. All lighting will be low level with the emphasis on security versus display lighting. Landscaping will retain present trees and vegetation to minimize the impact on this location. A subtle nautical theme will coincide with the seascape area. Thank you.
Okay. Did town engineer review that?
Yes. Yes, I've had a meeting with the town engineer, and I know a lot of the things that have to be done, I haven't completed them yet, so I'm really not ready to come for a formal hearing, okay? I need additional time. I'm not a developer. It's been a dream of mine to have this.
That's fine.
Okay?
I understand. You are by right allowed to do this as long as you comply with all the rules and regs.
I understand that, and I'm willing to do that.
All right. So what is it you want to ask us tonight? You said you want to ask.
Well, I'd like to ask for a continuance till August.
We'll give you a continuance.
Okay?
And you have to coordinate with the town engineer.
Yes.
And work out with him and comply with all the setback, drainage, lighting, whatever it is. He'll give you a list.
Yes, he has.
Okay.
I have that. But it's taken longer than I thought it would.
Right.
To get through all this. And you hire an engineer, and
no, I've done that.
they have great ideas and so forth and so on, but they don't always coincide with the town wants and what I need.
But
So,
I personally don't see a problem with it. And you guys see a problem with it?
No. Give him all the time he needs.
Yeah?
okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So when do you want to come back?
And what's available in August?
Okay, you're gonna have to give us a little thing in writing that you give us an extension till August.
I will. I know the form well.
You have to put it in writing, okay?
Yes, I understand that. I'll go to the office and fill out the form.
That you will extend the termination date as well as the hearing date.
Okay? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
1 second, we're gonna give you continuance, hold on. All right, we have August 14 and 28.
I'll go for the 28th. I want to make sure everything's perfect. 28th, please.
Very well. Can we have a motion to continue 23-19 One Ray Ave till August 28th?
Motion to continue.
Yes, so move with Veronica. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Bob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, oppose, abstains. 400, carries. So we see you on August 18.
Is there any way, in that time period,
Yes.
can we somehow figure out if we can eliminate a non-voting or a non-quorum? Is there any way that we can, I know, I'm asking for the impossible.
Yeah, so
I know,
hopefully...
but it's been
there's a
3
lot of
times.
things, as you saw tonight, some people left because it's not a quorum, that everyone is volunteer here, everybody tried to...
I understand that, I appreciate that.
You know, so...
We do appreciate it,
But
okay?
I'm sure the 2 members that are not here, they have very good reasons.
Okay.
If it makes you feel any better, we have more people now than,
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
so that's a good thing.
It's been worse before.
Right.
Thank you for coming on the board.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you on August 28th.
Fast and efficient.
Yes.
Does he need, Ken, does he need to come into the office, or is that what he's signing now? Is he?
He's signing out the extension, so he's okay.
We're all good.
Today's the 22nd, right?
22nd, yeah.
So he just needs to come back on the 28th of August with a complete set of plans.
With recommendation from Charlie, work it out with Charlie.
Yes, I have. He's
Wrap it up.
been extremely helpful. Thank you for your time.
very much.
Have a good day. If you want to see, there's a few more pictures here. This is what it looks like today, the house.
Yeah.
Without moving any bit of the structure. What I want to do is, all I'm doing is cleaning up. There's a bad roof here, right here. Cleaning that up, putting it over. This is the garage. I'm putting a cupola on the top of it. I'd like to, with a ship's wheel in it, with a capstan.
Yep.
And there's going to be the showroom right here, which is going to be glass all the way around.
It looks great.
And leave the house the way it is, but make sure that I completely isolate the house, the butters, from the car lot.
That's nice.
Okay?
Mixed uses are nice. All right, thank you.
Have a good night.
So,
All right.
There's no particular desk, that's Bolo, right?
yeah, we've got 3.
That's,
We can only open one in this space.
they're coming back in, right? That's-
Oh, that's right, too. Forgot. Sorry.
What's up, Jake?
Not much, man. What's going on?
Yep.
You got more than you need?
Yeah.
Nothing. Tired and hungry. It's good. Come ride dirt bikes. You should come ride sometime. I'll teach you. Come on, I got one for you.
It's good to share.
No, not really. Too busy, yeah. Too busy working.
Want to speak out for a minute?
Yeah, I have to go.
So what zoning do you want for? What zoning changes?
All right, put mine in last week.
Yeah, I'm just sorry, right here.
I could come up with more, but
We should do setbacks between commercial and industrial and feet. That's something we should do. For the next one. If you want to add to this, you know.
are you guys ready to come back?
Yeah, we're in.
Yep.
It feels so much later than 8:30. I feel like we've been here for
They
hours.
took off? That's it? They want more money for
Abandon you?
I guess they do get
You
paid
back on your own?
They got a long drive, I haven't.
Maybe then.
I've got even shorter drive than Charlie.
Second hearing. My God, I did few hearings.
It'll close.
Honest to God, no joke. I'll be until midnight. Right, yeah. That'd be like, okay, bye. Really nice.
We'll close that.
Oh, it's okay. It's just open a lot. It's fine.
All right, let's hear it.
I asked for just one clarification, Mr. Chairman. If you want to refer to in C4, one of my comments was based on a response that I got from a previous letter that said that the loading zone would be in the area of where the dumpsters are.
We gotta wait for Robin.
Okay. I will wait.
Not enough members, so.
Getting there. Thank you.
We fought in here when we first.
All right,
I know.
let's hear it. Sorry, can you please say what you said?
Yeah. Sheet C4 of the plans, there was only one minor change I asked to make, and it was based on a comment that was in the previous reply that I had, and that is that there's a loading zone that's required under your zoning bylaw and to be identified on the plans. So it came back to me that it would be shown as in the area in front of the dumpsters. So I asked that that particular area be striped off and the words loading zone, no parking be identified. On the plans that are here, there are 2 employee parking spaces that are right in front of the loading zone where you can't get at the dumpsters. So I've requested that those 2 spaces be removed. Given the fact that the spaces underneath the parking, or the gas canopy, can be used as part of the parking requirements. They're over the number that they need anyway. They're all set. So the removal of 2 is not any big deal, and it opens up that area for the loading. So long as that area is striped and marked or painted on the pavement, loading zone, no parking, that takes care of that. The other issues that were in the letter...
They did modify it in their response.
They did, but the modification was only striping with no identification as to what it was for.
We're okay
We don't have a
with...
problem with Charlie saying,
Okay.
Everything else...
we're going to make that change.
Everything else, according to the letter, has been modified on the plan, and I'm satisfied with that.
Okay, and you guys agree on that language?
We agree on that, yeah.
All right, very well. Anyone in the audience want to speak something regarding this matter? I hear none. Want to do some closing comments before we...
Well, I still got the sign issue. Okay, we got the sign down to the 18 feet. Parking spaces, I think we're fine. We've got more than enough because I think we can utilize the spaces at the pumps, so that's not an issue. I don't need any variance or modification, not. However, on the sign, I do. Sign, in getting it down, we lost some of our ground to bottom of sign elevation. In fact, we're down at 4.3 feet, bylaw is 7 feet. However, the bylaw is kind of qualified, and I think maybe as a matter of right, we've got the right to do that. There's an exception. 11, I think it's got to be 25-1, yeah. The sign may be constructed less than the minimum ground clearance if there's adequate visibility for vehicles and adequate protection for pedestrian safety.
Right.
Where the sign is located, obviously, there's no issue with visibility, and there's no pedestrians there. So I think that I'd like some language in whatever finding you make.
If you do 2 columns for it, that's what they mean by safety. And if it's a 1-column sign, somebody could walk and hit the head if it's 5 feet. But if it's a 2-column, for instance, like mobile goes for Morse, so there's no safety matter.
No, I don't think we have any safety issue at all on that sign, so I think we have a right to do that. We are still at, even though we reduced the area, we're still at a little under 112 square feet. If you give us the 8 foot, we're 3 foot over. So I'm asking for a waiver on that.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't have a problem with the building inspector when it comes time to get a building permit.
All right.
Other than that, I don't know. I don't know if the board has any questions. I think we
You
addressed...
need a waiver on that 3 feet?
Yes, on that, you know, we need a waiver, let's call it 112 feet to be safe.
All right, very well.
So it's a 4-foot waiver.
Who would like to add something? All right, I hear nothing, let's move to close. So move. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, it's closed. Okay, just motion, discussion, wishes.
I think we should just make a motion to approve. Get them out of here.
Yep.
With the waiver of 112 square feet.
Yes, 12 square feet on the sign, correct.
The sign. So we have a motion to grant, including the waiver of 112 square feet for the sign.
And the loading dock.
And comments, they already worked out the comment with Charlie. So these comments, make sure we incorporate. All right. Okay?
Yep.
So do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second by Robert, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, oppose, abstain, 500, carries, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's not that we don't want to see you again.
I want you to make more money, I was trying to make you more money, what's the matter with you? All right, very good. Let's go a few quick discussion on the changing bylaws. Area Ave is all set. On Jimmy's changing the recommendation, I also want to add something for setback between commercial and residential, 10 feet.
But that's separate from mine, right?
Right, separate.
Always a pleasure.
Because it's ridiculous when between commercial and industrial, it should be 10 feet.
10 feet between any industrial and commercial.
Yeah, or general.
Thank you very much.
Certain commercials, there are commercial and industrial, 10 feet.
I got to sit here.
Into residential, 20 feet, 20 feet makes sense.
Just leave him there, and I'll make sure he gets it.
So let's recommend this.
Can I just ask Jason questions on it?
Sure.
What is your intention with the marijuana facilities? Did you change
My intention is that we increase the zones in town that they can exist in. I've done a little research on this, and I might even modify what I've put in writing here, but basically I'm saying add all the commercial zoned areas. The only reason I left the bit in about institutional is because now I believe it to be a false, I was falsely led to believe that the state requires medical marijuana to be limited to institutional zoning. And I believe that the truth of the matter is that medical marijuana is not so restricted, so I don't think we even need that restriction, which would be the former 391. But I left it the way it was so that if the town, in their wisdom or lack thereof, decided they wanted to keep medical marijuana restricted to institutional zoning, it could be kept that way. If we don't need to, I don't see, what difference does it make if they get medical marijuana on Cranberry Highway or?
They should just have it at Rite Aid or something if it's medical marijuana. They should have it at like Rite Aid or something if it's really medical marijuana. You should be able to go to the...
So I just don't see the benefit.
If you have a prescription for it, I mean, that's really, I mean...
I don't see the benefit of restricting it. If a zone in our town would allow for a pharmacy, then medical marijuana should be in that same zone. And recreational. So that's, the way the bylaw was written, it was written to direct 3 licenses into 3 parts of town. Fine, they had their day. Their day is, my opinion is, I'm a capitalist.
I do agree with Jim for one simple reason. When they did these licenses here and there, whoever did the licenses, like, whether you like to hear it or not, people like prejudice against it, oh, it's drugs.
Right.
But it's now legal, so you gotta think of it. I mean, I'm against it personally, but I don't make the laws. So if it's like selling gas and selling, like he said, a pharmacy, it should be allowed whatever is commercial. I mean, why do you want to be prejudiced? Oh, it's only going to be here or here. That's my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think the town painted themselves in a bit of a corner with the way it was originally written, and I think even though my changes seem they make more sense. You know.
We've talked about this a few times anyway, so...
I mean, if it's legal, it should be, it's business.
Bylaws shouldn't pigeonhole certain businesses into certain...
Yeah, that's
True, but I think we have to consider the fact now, and I know we don't because we've made it legal here, but federally it's not legal, so I don't know what impact that has on our, what down the road we might change that.
Shut it down, they can. That's anytime you can shut it down and bust them.
Yeah, but that's got nothing...
That's not...
I don't know if it has an impact, I'm just saying it's something that is in the back of my mind. Does it have an impact? I don't know.
It does have nice bylaws, like with the signs and everything, it doesn't attract kids. But...
And we still have to approve stuff anyways. I mean, if they say they want to go here, they can't just open up a shop. Everyone has to agree on it, I would think.
They need a host community agreement, they need a license from the state.
Yeah, so it's...
Zoning approval from the board.
If they pass, most of everything that was in our bylaw, the state regulations provide for already. If they can get a license from the state, then what we want to do is say, we're zoning, where in our town can they do it? They can do it in the commercial, they can do it in the industrial district. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't even belong in the institutional district because that's where our town hall and our schools are. But
that's true. It's the opposite, you're right.
You know, just because that happens to be the place that you put a hospital.
I mean, there's a great stretch
And get rid of the
On
language.
28 near
Yeah.
Robertson. That's perfect location for it.
Absolutely.
That's perfect there. There's no, plenty of the land empty, and there's plenty on East Wareham. East Wareham's a lot. But all what
I mean, they need
my
to put-
opinion, like Jim said, we shouldn't be prejudiced about it. It should be allowed everywhere else. But I disagree for the industrial, because I don't want to take industrial land away, that's all.
Well, it's right now, it's okay to put it in the industrial zone.
Right.
And
I mean, keep it.
keep it there, sure.
Why not? Sure.
I haven't taken it away from there.
Yeah.
If they want to have it in an industrial park, good. If they want to have it on strip commercial, Turnberry Highway area,
Yeah.
good. If they want to have it at Shaw's Plaza, it's okay with me.
So that's your change.
That's my reason.
The change in the wording where you say instead of shall be limited to 3, may be limited to 3.
I changed the word from shall to may. That gives the people that decide the opportunity to say, okay, we're going to go from 3 to 4 licenses.
And the,
We're not gonna increase the license.
Right now, it says that shall be limited to 3. I said it may be limited
and
to
the
3.
selectmen put that
You
into
don't like
place to
that, you
begin
can
with,
take that part of it out. I don't care.
based on,
What's that?
the selectmen put this together to begin with.
I don't know who wrote
based
it.
on-
I think limiting, you could limit, just like liquor license,
Yeah.
it's limited. I think 3 is plenty for Wareham. We shouldn't have more than.
Well, then leave it at shall. I don't care about that. I needed
I
to
mean,
throw something.
selectmen, we don't increase them, the selectmen does, the body, I mean, the town meeting increase them. We
That's
don't.
my one concession. I'll make that one concession. I'm not being reasonable.
So propose, if the planning board, I mean, say put it for town meeting, I guess. It's a suggestion.
Yeah.
That's on the marijuana. What about the drive-through restaurants?
Drive-through, what do you guys think of drive-through?
Never. I think they need to start putting a lot better ones in town than Burger King and Wendy's.
Pardon me?
If they're gonna put some, maybe put some better ones in
Well,
this town.
they've got a bylaw that's subject to interpretation right now. That's why I'm suggesting changes to 386 here. They've got a bylaw right now that's written in such a way that
It says it's gotta be in the enclosed.
somebody
apartment.
coming to town looking at it might just say, oh, this is too big of a pain in the neck. We can go to an easy town like Marion.
Yeah, good luck there.
But I just changed it so that drive-through restaurants over here where we've got it with Wendy's, fine, I like the way we wrote it. But if you wanted to have the drive-through restaurants on Cranberry Highway, McDonald's, Wendy's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, blah, 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 they have access directly on and off the highway. The way the bylaw is right now, if they close down, they could not reopen. They'd have to have access from inside the Ocean State Job Lot parking lot. And I disagree with that. I think that if McDonald's or Wendy's or Sonic or any one of another, if they want to have a curb cut on a commercially zoned strip of our property, I think we should welcome them. I don't know what the big problem is with somebody driving into a piece of property and yelling at a microphone and driving away with food in their car.
What do you think, Rob?
I kind of agree with Jim. I do.
Veronica?
I don't agree.
You don't agree?
No.
Jake?
I'm kind of in between.
Just over a ton of accidents over at McDonald's and Wendy's and in that area because
I don't
people are
think that
coming in and out, and now, I know they're talking about putting a meridian.
Yeah.
If they put the meridian,
That's
then
gonna
fine, it's
change
all one
that.
way, and that'll be fine.
Yeah,
But
that will
without
change.
it, I think it has a definite impact.
I don't think the drive-through restaurants create the rest of the accidents.
But that's where they happen.
Right, because it's not because they're going to drive-through, they're probably going just to the restaurant.
Well,
Even if
oh,
it doesn't,
so if you don't have a drive-through,
you have people go in that restaurant regardless. I mean, with drive-through, more traffic, of course.
That whole section of Wareham's terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
But
regardless.
they're
I mean,
gonna
there's,
put a medium, but Jim is talking, increase it to West Wareham, allow it in West Wareham.
Where it's currently an apparent problem.
All right, well, she's not
not in
good
favor.
with, that's fine. Jake?
I don't mind drive-throughs as long as the designs they give us or show us are much better than this side of town. Like the Wendy's they're putting over there is obviously much better. So
He agrees to.
it has to be a really, a good plan that makes sense. Because we wouldn't agree with those these days. No one would if they wanted to put in something like that. No one would, oh yeah, we could throw that in. No, it's dangerous. We lived and learned that already. So I'm not against the drive-throughs as long as they look better and more attractive. Because that side of town looks really nice right now. If you start putting in Square, McDonald's, just turn it back into that side of town. So I just think it needs to be nicer when they make it. I have nothing against drive-throughs. I go there all the time. That's why I'm getting a belly like Jim.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Well,
That's
I
true,
agree
is-
with
is
Jim, but that's
visually.
2 against 3, so
Well, that's
that's
just,
not good.
let me put it to you this way. According to this bylaw, you can't have a drive-through pharmacy, you can't have a drive-through bank in the same location. Do you guys agree with that?
In that same location?
That's same,
A drive-through
this bylaw
pharmacy,
doesn't apply to
drive-through
just restaurants.
No,
it applies to
I have
banks.
nothing against drive-throughs. I have nothing against drive-throughs at all. I just think it's the design of the drive-throughs.
I'm trying to
Where does that come
understand
from,
why
Jim?
that even is, why that's even, what?
Drive-throughs are not allowed right
It's
now.
drive-through. If
So,
it's a
but
pharmacy,
how about
if it's a
if it's a
restaurant.
pharmacy or a bank, are you okay with it?
They used to have a
We
drive-through
already
over there.
have them.
But let's say,
We also already have a McDonald's, but we can't have
So-
another one.
But I don't know what's the...
let's say in West
We
Wareham,
can't have any more?
No, the bylaw says no. You can't have, if McDonald's gets torn down and Wendy's gets torn
I
down.
would say with restrictions, we should still.
They can't have them, no, that bylaw
let's
says
say you
no.
want to open a bank in West Wareham, you can't have a drive-through now.
Oh,
So if they close down McDonald's on 28, they can't open up here?
No, they cannot.
Well, they can if they come through us. If they come through us, they can do it. The Wendy's,
See
the
why they
Wendy's,
can't. You're right.
the Wendy's got opened
The
if they really need to. Jim, you're just trying to make it more attractive to
I'm
people.
referring to number 386 in our
Yeah.
bylaw.
Variance. That's what the issue was, you needed a variance, and that's why it was a complicated issue for Wendy's. That's why they sort of withdrew for a little while, because it did require a variance. But I
Open
think-
up the bylaw and read number 386.
I think the more important part about the drive-through is circulation. So if you're gonna simply say that drive-throughs are allowed without addressing some of the issues that go with it, such as circulation and the way that the traffic movements go within the site. I don't think it was your board, I think it might have been the planning board that was looking at those Sonics down there on Main Avenue.
No, that was us.
That was you? That was so confined.
That's why.
The drive-through went around the front of the store. The access to it off of Cranberry Highway was lousy.
That's why we didn't agree
And
with
it
it.
was just too confined, so there needs to be...
Didn't work.
Maybe some looking at the way that the designs are done, so that the drive-through is on the interior of the lot and away from the frontage, and so that the circulation is made so that the patterns for the drive-through and the patterns for people that are coming in to park sort of separated. All depends on the lot size and the configuration.
Right. So in other word, what Charlie's saying, so if you go to the drive-through, you dump back to the parking lot of the restaurant, then go out on your curb cut, right? Not directly from the drive-through to the road. That would make big changes.
It all depends on the configuration. For example, the McDonald's, which is down in East Wareham, is not a bad one in terms of
So 28, you
circulation.
couldn't do it.
Right.
It's bad because of the traffic is on 6 and 28.
But that's got nothing to do with the design of the,
It's got nothing to do with the design.
Yeah.
So it's the configuration of the site, maybe the size of the sites.
I think the best configuration is Burger King.
right.
That's when they end.
McDonald's still,
Burger King, you can't even get out of there. You can't even turn right. I go there all the time, get my Big Macs, my Whoppers.
it dumps you back in the parking to the curb. In McDonald's, you could go straight out to the road. It's more than, the best one is Burger King. It brings you back to the parking lot, you go out the curb.
I can't even pull up my smart car pulling out of there.
I know.
so why don't we allow
just
them,
messing
but
with you
just
now.
have zoning
Turn.
board approval, special permit, or something like that, instead of just a plain no.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
That would make sense.
All right, so
It's
just
it
that.
would
There we
be a
go.
planned
Ding, ding,
review.
ding.
Drive-through,
Yes, Jim, that
special
makes sense
permit.
one.
Okay, all drive-through through special permit zoning. Planning board might be upset. They
That's
want-
all right.
They might be.
I didn't come in here to make the planning board happy.
We kind of figured that was the case.
All right, let's suggest it. right?
Now, this board deals a lot with pre-existing non-conforming, and there were a lot of changes in that section of the bylaw. And I think it's been working pretty well, but just wanted to know if you agree, when you come across a pre-existing non-conforming decision, are you clear on the way the regulation works? And is it working properly?
I think it's working fine personally.
I don't think we've had any problems with those at all.
Yeah,
Have
I
an
think
opinion?
it's fine, it's good, and it gives us some leverage if we wanna play with it. I think it's great the way it's written. I wouldn't change anything with
Read
it, personally. I don't know.
fully.
Hey, backing up to the drive-throughs.
You think, Ken?
Yeah.
The way I wrote it,
Okay.
The way it's written, just want to make sure.
the way I wrote it, my language said, by special permit.
There you go.
See?
So drive-through allowed, strip commercial, general commercial, by special permit zoning.
The way you've written it here, Jim, what you could do is just take the existing section, drive-through restaurants should be,
Well, I was leaving that section for general commercial with the dumping it back into the parking lot. See how I made it that the A?
you left number 4, yeah.
See, and I just took number 4 out on everybody else. That's why I made it an A and a B. So the general commercial.
To Wareham Village, you can't build a hotel or a motel. Why is that?
I'm not sure.
I think we should allow, it'll be beautiful to have in the village area hotel. I was like going through it.
Make it a tourist destination.
Yeah. I don't believe it's not allowed to
Yeah.
build a hotel. That's
They could
crazy.
stay at
City
the,
should
A
get a hotel.
lot of these bylaws in this town need to be looked at again, just because of the fact that this town is changing so fast, and a lot more things are coming in here. And a lot of people don't like that, but sorry, folks, that's the way it is. So again, like Jim said, he's looking at things that may be going on down the road later on, and I think that it's time. I think that it's time for a bylaw review.
well, that's why he's asking, that's why I made my suggestions, because they're gonna put it in front of the town and vote on it,
So
so.
you're the only one that did the homework.
I'm the only, so far, you
Well, if
know,
there's something you knew, maybe they could.
I had a couple of pet
So
peeves.
listen, in Wareham Village, hotels are not allowed. We should apply, ask the town and the meeting to allow hotel or motel in the Wareham Village. That's Main Street area. Why not? That's perfect location near the water and stuff.
I agree.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
I do
Can we
too with a
subscribe
hotel.
for that?
Motel, maybe
Yeah.
not.
Huh?
Motel, I'm not sure I agree. I think
Well, a hotel,
versus motel.
well, a
Difference.
real hotel is
Yeah.
over 100 room.
That'd be a big complex.
You understand?
You can have a boutique hotel.
I guess it's just my,
Right.
Well, there's a parking lot available right down the
my
street from
point is I don't
Toby.
want them to all become little apartments. That's
No, no.
why
What
I'm
do you think,
saying
Jim?
hotel as opposed to motel, they become apartments for people.
Well, if it's 30, 40 rooms.
No, we gotta,
it's
see,
not
the
Yeah, so I would-
Board of Health already took care of that. They can't have, the motels can't become apartments anymore.
You can't live more than...
They've already addressed that issue.
I know a kid living in a motel down the road. He lives there for 3
So
years.
can we try to...
They say they can't, but they do.
Yeah,
In Wareham Village, allow...
I would like to look at
Limited
those
to
more
one-
comprehensively and say, is not the
Difference in exit.
somewhere.
What we do to
Hotel, motel,
generate some...
How about brothels?
bed and breakfast. Is it allowed? I think bed and breakfast are allowed.
No brothels, huh? What's that
I
mean
would,
anyway?
I would say we shouldn't just open it up, like, completely to hotel motels. I think we should have some restrictions on, I'm thinking
Yeah,
one
bed and
entrance,
breakfast.
one exit, or
Gambling casinos?
something like that. So it's not like drive up, everybody gets into their room. I don't like that.
Apartments.
Not in the middle of Wareham.
Apartments.
Not enough space as it is.
Apartments, however, the law says every 1,000 square feet, one, I would say every 1,000 square feet.
I'm more conservative.
Yes.
We'll get a little density out of it.
get more density, you know what I'm saying?
Something.
I would say the first apartment, 75.
Wareham Village right now,
Every additional is 1,000, not 2,000. You know what I'm saying?
it's 2,000 for new construction. If you have an existing building and you remodel it, then it's 1,000.
But I think
They got
for
1,000
new,
for all.
make it 1,000, so to encourage people living on Main Street.
Yeah, these
You change it to 1,000.
I kind of, I agree with that.
I agree.
And
I
listen,
agree with what
over
he's saying.
40, it says 7,500, eliminate
I
that.
said, but I think.
Once you go over 40 units, they want another 7,500, eliminate it, keep it every 1,000. There's not much land on Main Street anyway.
There's not a lot of places where you could actually,
You know what I'm saying, how it says here? On density?
but if they're going to, you know, if 2 or 3 Main Street buildings did an assemblage, they could make something pretty nice there. Overlooking the river.
Really, really nice.
Okay, see how it says here, other residential zone use? For instance, Wareham Village, the first one you need 10,000, then you need 2,000 for each additional. We should do each 1,000, not 2,000. And then it's a start, over 40, you need 7,500. I would eliminate 7,500. Keep it 1,000. Apparently, you gotta provide parking. You can't get parking, you can't get them. There's not much land, so whatever there, encourage that. But if you're remodeling, you could do 1,000, not 2,000. So why not? Same thing. You know what I'm saying? So I would change.
I think what we should do is do a little urban design study in the downtown, figure out what it looks like when you get some kind of density down there,
Right,
and see if everybody agrees with the change.
right. And another thing,
What's that?
Couldn't be over 3 stories.
30 feet,
no.
is it?
Why is
3
that?
stories plenty on Wareham
Maximum
Village.
height.
Because the village is only 35 feet?
35 feet.
Yeah, it's not nice to be over 3 stories anyway, especially in the village.
Don't we have some areas that are 45 feet?
They're existing.
No,
Yeah,
we
we do have
we have some-
45 on the highway, yeah. Rosebrook, yeah, but.
But don't we have zones that allow 45 feet? I'm pretty sure we do.
I don't know.
Pretty sure we do. I'll open the book if you...
Another thing I would suggest, East Wareham, we should encourage housing a lot, because that area, it needs
Aren't they
housing.
putting in like a huge complex in East Wareham?
150 units is nothing.
How many, 150?
It's nothing, is what he's saying.
That's a long stretch of a highway. It's gonna die if it doesn't
Well, you
have
know,
people living there.
I've had this thought for a long time but Charlie just mentioned height. If you could make a bylaw that would allow the mobile home parks to rebuild and put a garage under and go up.
Garage under?
Garage under, yes.
Would you see it on Pinterest?
50, 75, have you ever been to?
40 feet in the Wareham Village.
You know, park the cars on the first 2 levels.
Yeah, we should
One
be-
day below
A
grade.
mobile home?
Should be 30.
No, a a building.
Oh. You lost me, I'm
Building.
sorry.
Take the mobile, I'm using those, we have mobile home parks that don't qualify for housing. They don't qualify in the formula, they don't anything. The state doesn't recognize them as part of our housing inventory.
Right.
That's why there's no people there.
Okay?
That's right. People
I guess
walking, eating, drinking.
But if you took that mobile home park out of there and put up a high-rise building with a story or 2 or 3 of indoor parking, and then stories of apartments above it. You know, you drive your car in, you get in the elevator, you take the elevator to your floor, you go to your apartment. From Cranberry Highway, they can see Orchard Bay if they were up.
No, that's Scanlake, right?
That would be,
Yes.
way better, in my humble opinion.
You want the plan for the gas
than a
station?
mobile
You
home
got one?
park.
I see some development money here.
I have no gain, no
All right, let's make a motion to
cards in
adjourn.
this.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose, abstain. Thank you.
Thank you for the...